Okay, welcome everybody to the Flash movie review on our podcast and on the Real Life Ryan channel.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's going to be on both now.
So, this is actually our second time doing this. We did a podcast episode reviewing The Sopranos,
We did.
the entire series, and it was the first time that we both had watched it.
That's right. We came out of the woodwork onto this popular hit TV show that everybody was talking about called The Sopranos.
Yeah, it's like this little low budget, indie thing that
Yeah,
no
yeah.
one has ever really talked about on
Yeah,
YouTube before.
no,
So
no.
we just decided to talk about it for the first time, probably the first video ever
Yeah.
to talk about The
Yeah,
Sopranos.
new territory for YouTube, I would say.
Yeah. So we did that. That is up on my channel, and we are having a channel specifically for the podcast.
Yep. So right now, because I'm kind of headed in that one, the Sopranos episode will go up first. And actually, you know what? I'm going to put up... Let's throw the Flash up first because it's current.
Yeah.
Because we're going to do a little bit extra that'll go on to the podcast one. Then I'll throw up the Sopranos as the second one.
Okay.
And then I'll give us time to make sure that we sit down and talk and do a podcast. That way we can keep it flowing.
Absolutely. What's the name of the channel?
It's Ryan and Vogie.
Just Ryan and Vogie.
I went with Ryan and Vogie.
Okay.
I didn't make it specific to podcasts. I didn't do anything like that.
Okay.
Because I figured, knowing us, there would be just other things that we just want to mess around with and maybe throw up on there. Because I don't even know what to call this podcast. I sat there and was typing in titles, and I'm like, the Ryan and Vogie Show, the Ryan and Vogie Variety Cast, the Ryan and Vogie, and then I'm like, well, maybe we should call it something else. And basically what I'm trying to tell you is I called it Ryan and Vogie because he's Ryan, I'm Vogie. And I still hadn't figured out a title for anything else we were going to do. So, I mean, if you've got suggestions, put it either in his on his comment on his video or
That's actually probably a better idea.
the Ryan and Vogie channel. Just
Ask other people to come up with ideas. They'll come up with some good stuff, though. They will.
It could be. It better be some good stuff, or it'll be some just scary stuff.
I'm
that we
always
can't use.
I'm always amazed by the creativity of the comments. So that'll be linked probably down below or as soon as possible. Until then, we're gonna talk about this movie that came out, called The Flash.
Yeah, small movie.
For those unfamiliar, this is based on the popular DC Comics character called The Flash.
No way.
Yeah. And it also takes place in the not complicated at all DC EU universe of the movies that has...
Was this DCEU or was this Elseworld?
I mean, by the end of the movie, I don't know what to consider it. But, yeah. So, this movie has a lot of baggage associated with it, I would say.
I got some notes on some of the baggage. You want to hear this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go.
So first of all, this movie it came out. We're recording this on the Saturday after it came out because it came out yesterday. Now, we joked, this movie, I looked it up, this movie has been in development since July of 2013 is when it first was announced.
Damn.
So it was obviously being worked on before that.
So right around Man of Steel time, like when they were making that movie.
So apparently there was a slate of movies announced in 2013. The Flash was on there. It was set to release in 2016. It didn't make it. Then it was supposed to release in 2018, which would have been the same year as Aquaman and just after Justice League.
Okay.
So that's kind of the territory it was sitting. It was supposed to sit in.
All right.
It didn't make that either. Other notable things about its background: 4 different directors. I mean, 2 of them were like a duo director situation, but 4 different sets of 4 directors.
All right.
The one that ends up directing the film is the 5th.
Man.
So we have almost 10 years worth of development, and 5 directors later, we get 2013 The Flash.
And I wonder what the issue was with finding a solid director. Were they arguing with the studio over the direction of the film, the scripts just didn't work right, or they tried to work on it and they were like, never mind, this movie's too complicated, I don't want to do this.
I didn't look to see why it didn't work
Yeah.
out, but 9 times out of 10 when these things don't work out, it's like, oh well, it's creative differences.
Yeah.
And creative differences is just a fancy way of saying like we were not on the same page at all.
I feel like a lot of the problem with the DC universe has always been the studio interference too, where it's like
studio interference is terrible.
Like someone might want to might have a creative vision and might have something that they really want to do and say, but they're limited by the studio constantly being like, well, the last movie didn't do well, so now we got to change this and we got to move this plot line over here and you can't do this anymore, and it just like makes it a complicated mess. I honestly don't know. I mean, I know why someone would probably want to make a big studio superhero movie because, I mean, there's probably a lot of money involved. You get a lot of, you have all the help you could possibly want with all the budget. But, like, it's got to be super stressful for, like, somebody that just wants to tell a story. Like, just, like, an artist's vision, you know what I mean?
I think that what complicates it as well is, like, yes, the interference from the studio, but also, okay, 1 year they're like, it's interconnected. It's going to be the DC universe.
Yeah.
And then it felt like a year later, I was like, well, we're going to make more movies that can like stand on their own, and they're not necessarily connected. And then 6 months later, it's just like, it's going to be a universe. Don't you worry. So if I'm a director coming on to The Flash and I can't get a straight answer out of you onto like, is it connected? Is it not connected?
Right. Yeah.
I've got characters in there, as we'll get into there. There's characters in those movies that have, are they going to hang around to be in a Flash movie? Do they want to even do the Flash movie? Like, it would not have been a fun task to take on. So before you even get into the creative situation, like, it could have been just like, I don't want that headache.
Yeah. I don't blame any of them, really.
No, like, this was not a fun. I don't think it would have been a fun project, especially we'll get there eventually. But like, some of the actors decided to pull some things, which didn't make it easy.
So they finally landed on the director, and then they just finally started production, probably pre-COVID,
right?
And then had to stop, and then probably had to continue, and then the situation with the elephant in the room. I don't know if we want to mention that right off the bat.
It's a little
out of the way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure that this movie has been sitting in the can for almost a year and a half, maybe 2.
Yeah.
Because they were talking about how this was pretty much finished like end of last year. I feel like I was hearing like, it's done. We're showing it to people. And and then Ezra Miller decides to have an episode or whatever you want to call.
Right. Okay. So that's the big elephant in the room with this movie, and that's like the big controversy on if people even want to go and support it and stuff like that. Which I can understand. I have always said that for the most part, I can always separate the art from the artist because lots of people go into making movies, not just one person. Even though he is the lead actor, there's hundreds of thousands upon people that worked on this, material and want their work to be seen and want it to be out there and put in the time and effort and energy to not have one person dick them over. Like, you remember like when you were in school and you had that one kid in class that did something fucking stupid and then the whole class had to be punished? Like, it's like,
look, the family, this movie fed a lot of families. We'll just
right.
It fed a lot of families.
So I will say, like, I can separate the art from the artist for the most part. There are many pieces of media that I love dearly that have baggage attached to them. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Joss Whedon, he also did the Avengers stuff, came out, a lot of bad stuff about him. One of my favorite manga is Rurouni Kenshin, and lots of bad things come about the author of that. And there's dozens upon dozens of other things you could say. But I think that the hardest thing about this movie is that when it's behind the scenes, when it's a writer, when it's someone you're not having to look at in the face, it's a little bit easier to ignore it and be able to just watch the product as it is.
Right.
But when your main character, and there's 2 of them, there's 2 Ezra Millers in this movie, it makes it a lot harder. And I'm not gonna lie, not spoiling anything yet in this video, obviously, but like while watching this movie, there were particular moments that really irritated me that I don't think I would have minded as much if I wasn't watching Ezra be the person to do it, if that makes sense.
I would agree. I would say that it's a situation where trying to ignore what he did is a little bit more tougher. One, as you said, because he's in it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Also, if this was any other kind of movie, I don't think it would have been. I think it may have been a tad bit easier. But this is a superhero property, so like these people are supposed to be inherently good, and I'm really struggling with like
especially the
that
Flash. It's not like Batman that has like darkness to him, or like the Flash is a pretty positive, like beloved character. Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
played by. Yeah, you can go look it and find it up yourself, but like
right.
Not a good person.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
I mean, we should say that we're going to try to keep the first half. I know you said it, but we're going to try to keep the first half as spoiler free as we can.
We'll be spoiler free for a bit, and then we'll get into details
because it's really hard to kind of talk about this movie.
It is one of those
and not get into it.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's like it's really hard to explain what you liked and didn't like without talking about the plot. So,
yeah.
So what's first? What did you have on the list?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, like anything I have on here, the movie that I had a few thoughts, as you can see.
Yeah. Structure is good.
Structure is good, but unfortunately, if we start down my list, we're gonna have to get into it pretty.
So let's just do like general overall thoughts.
I mean, so some of these I will say.
Yeah.
So just some notes.
Yeah.
There was some scenes in this movie that were like awesome. It was really awesome to see.
Yeah.
There was other scenes not so much. Mm-hmm. I have giant capital letters on my notes. There's way too much CG. It killed it for me.
Yep.
The more and more I think about it, the more and more I go back on it. It's not exactly the best looking, especially for this day and age. That CG was not.
Well, that's the thing is like it's not that there's too much CG. It's that the CG doesn't look good for the movie. It doesn't like enhance the movie. Like it's very noticeable. It takes you out of the film. Uncanny Valley. Like it's just
constantly.
It just looks, and it's not just like one scene. It's like the entire movie. The CG is strange. Like it looks strange. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know if it's the cinematography or what it is or the brightness of it. Maybe it should have been darker to kind of hide the faults of it a bit more. But there's something about the CG in this movie that just looks. For example,
here's how I explain it.
Yeah.
If you ever go outside at night when it's like a full moon and it's like really bright down on you and everything has like that light moon glow on it, it's shiny moon glow is what's on all of it. Like it's almost like they've tried to make everything more of like a reflective surface to handle the light. But everything in this film has like a shiny like sheen on it.
Yeah, it makes it feel like murky or it just looks strange when you're looking at a human being's face. It looks like clay,
or shiny plastic.
Yeah,
like all the outfits look like shiny plastic.
Yeah, and I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. Like what the.
I mean, not that
the reason is
right, and I mean not to compare because it had its own issues, but we just got Ant-Man back in February, March. That had its issues as well, but it didn't nearly take me out of the movie as much as like the CG in this one did. It just kept ripping me out of the movie, and it was very tough to get sunk in when it was like that.
Well, Ant-Man looked like it was just like all like a green screen, but this movie looks like there's just weird like clay people moving around.
And I'll get into that. That's at least they filmed actual people to insert in.
Yeah.
This movie, like anytime they were just like, we don't need an actor, we'll just CG that, and they did, person. And it was bad.
Yeah.
I will
say my overall like general.
Yeah, go for it because I'm looking through my notes to be like, can I say any of these without?
Here's what I honestly think. I honestly think that the ideas that are presented in this movie and like its underlying themes are really good. Like there is like an emotional core of this movie that is a great idea. Like it's right there. It's right in our face. Like there's several really good ideas that are in this movie. But when it comes to the execution of those ideas, I feel like a lot of it fell flat, didn't follow through the way that I wanted it to, and I'm sorry, but with Ezra in the lead, loses a lot of its impact. And that's obviously they didn't know that before they were filming the movie, but it's just the reality of what it is now. There are themes like obviously like how tragedy affects us, right? And how we want to go back into the past. I mean, people saw the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. Like people know that Barry's mom died when he was a kid, and like part of the focus of this movie is him going back in time and wanting to stop that,
right? And how to process and handle grief,
right? How to handle grief, right? And like knowing that you can't change the past. Also, how tragedies, although horrible, do make us into the people that we're meant to be. Right. Dealing with Batman, I think that's why it's a good idea to include Batman here too, because he also lost his parents. So there's a lot of great ideas with that. Also about the idea of like maturity. There's two Barrys, one's older, one's younger, and the interesting thing is the older one is kind of like looking at his younger self, like
the whole idea of reflecting back on oneself,
right?
Kind of where you were and where you came from, and kind of seeing like how something or some things may change someone.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good themes.
So that I thought was a great idea. Like that's a great concept. Like I like that. But it's just when it comes down to the execution of it. I mean, there's one good like emotional scene at the end. You know what I'm talking about. But other than that, I don't think that it really.
That was really the only scene in the movie that actually got to me a little bit. But that's it. Yeah. I think unfortunately this movie really struggled from like hitting a lot of emotional beats, but it couldn't maintain it. Like it had a good start and then it like slowed down and they got like a little tired out and then it got weird and then so I just emotionally I don't think it was consistent and I think it struggled with that, and I felt that because there would be moments where I'm like yes and I'm into it and I'm enjoying it and I get it, and then there was other times where I'm just like what time is it, like how much longer do I have?
It's a long movie. It's like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, and I have a note it was longer.
Yeah. So that's kind of like a general idea. Again, CGI I thought was a mess. I was also a bit there's some good action scenes in this movie, but I was a bit let down by like the bigger action scenes. Again, this is in the trailer, so not really spoiler, but the sequence in the desert, that you see in the trailers. Again, there's something about that just really was not visually pleasant to look at. I don't know if it was just the flatness of the world around them, the fact that all the other characters besides the main superheroes are just like nameless, faceless people that we don't really like understand. Like I don't understand like the what's the word I'm looking for? The stakes, I guess, that I'm in, and it looked very bland. Like there's just a very beige, like the CGI of it looked kind of.
I have down that I don't understand what the color grade was. Yeah. What color grade they were going for or like why it looked the way that it did.
And the main thing is that, okay, this is the Flash. Obviously, his power is super speed, right? Well, mostly. Like he's got the Speed Force, whatever.
Right.
So I was expecting or hoping that there would be a lot of cool, creative things that you could do with super speed. Like, how cool could you make scenes where everything else is in slow motion, but he's not? Or, the different things that he has to do while maintaining the speed, or how it affects other things around him. Like, I was just expecting really cool, like, set pieces and action scenes with the super speed. And there's one in the beginning which is like so over the top and ridiculous that like I was just laughing the whole time. We'll get into that.
You did. We went to the movies. I laughed. He started to crack up and laugh in the movie theater, and then I couldn't help but follow afterwards.
I don't know if I was supposed to be laughing or not, but yeah.
It was pretty funny, to be honest.
But that was like the only scene that did something like that, and I don't even think that was that great. Like, for example, like I still think the Quicksilver scene from X-Men is the best super speed we've seen in a movie. And
yeah, the opening, like in the opening mansion scene, is that one?
Well, that one too. Yeah,
that one's pretty good.
Yeah, like in the mansion where he's saving everybody.
Yeah.
I think that was a better super speed scene than anything in The Flash. And I don't want to say that because I like the Flash as a character. And I want to see some cool shit.
I don't want to say that either, but I kind of agree. It was so much better. It's cleaner. It's just
clean.
It's clean.
Yeah.
And like they did it in a way that like again, there's like inserts of a human being in there.
Yeah.
I hate you're gonna get annoyed with me because I keep harping on this fact, but it was an insert of an actual person doing something. Mm-hmm. This does not happen.
And you know what? It had energy to it too. Like you're dealing again with a character like the Flash. Like why wasn't the soundtrack like? I'm not saying like we need like speed metal or something, but why wasn't it like this movie should give me energy? This movie should make me want to run.
Right.
Like, I should come out of this movie being like, I'm the Flash, and like run down the movie aisle. You know what I mean?
I should have a sound cue in the Flash universe that just peaks the hairs on my arm, and I'm like, we're going, we're going fast, boys.
Yeah,
here it goes.
Fast. Like, there's
like run, Barry, run. Let's go.
I need energy, and I just didn't feel energy.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah,
nothing.
So that disappointed me.
I say the other thing I'll throw out there because you were leaning heavy on there about like what's in the trailer. The marketing, in my opinion, killed this movie. To not completely, but a lot of things that would have been an awesome surprise had I not known about were already out in the world.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to not know that we were going to get Batman in there. Why am I drawing a blank?
Oh, like the Michael
Keaton's Batman. Like it would have kind of been, it would have hit a little bit harder if I didn't know he was coming. We'll get into, there's a few surprises towards the end that, one of them, like, unless you know some lore and background about some movies,
very
it means
surprising.
Like not a whole lot to you. So like that scene was only geared towards like a percentage of fans out there, which I mean I appreciated it, but I was just kind of like, okay, all right, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, I like that. Another positive is the plot of Sasha Kaye.
The plot, huh?
Listen, I'm just saying, like, her plot is very nice. She's got a very nice plot.
It is.
I enjoyed watching her scenes for many practical reasons.
Right, sure. Yeah, the plot.
Yeah. So that's my positive.
Out of all the entire movie, you're just like her plot. That's it. Yeah. That's about all the positives.
Yes.
The rest of the movie, shambles. Just complete mess.
Yeah. I mean, we get into Michael Keaton stuff too, but it'd probably be better to get into that when we go like spoilers. So
I mean, at this point, are we ready just to jump?
So overall, I think it's a pretty mid movie. I think there's some cool scenes in it. There are some cool moments.
Very much so.
Not every action scene is really poor to look at. There's some good ones. But overall, it's just good ideas, bad execution. I think it's pretty mid. I mean, it's not like I don't know. Because the more I think about it, the more I find things that I don't like. But I wouldn't say it's a bad movie, I guess.
I mean, the best way I would put it is, and we had a friend of ours ask us this, is like, hey, would you go see the movie again? And my answer was probably not. And if I was going to watch anything out of it, this is one of those movies where I'd go to like YouTube and like look for clips.
Right.
There's some clips in this and some scenes in this movie that I would want to watch again. But do I want to sit down and watch this movie all the way through again? Not right now. Not 24 hours after we've seen the movie. No, not really. I don't really care to go back and watch it again. Yeah. So, I mean, that kind of, I think, just says enough right there. It's just, that's it. I'll go back and watch some clips, but am I...
What would you give it out of 10?
Oh, boy. That is such a hard question.
I might go right in the middle and give it like a 5.
I was thinking that because it is just a mediocre movie.
Yeah.
Like it's not The problem is like I think there's a really good movie in there someplace.
Yeah.
But there was just a lot of things like this movie. I know they've had it for a while, but this movie probably could have stood for another pass or two on the editing front, because it's 2 hours and 24 minutes long, and it could have maybe been a little bit shorter.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm almost gonna have to give it I'm gonna give it a 5 or a 6 out of 10. 5.5 out of 10.
5.5. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess now we're gonna get into spoilers of the movie. So those of you that have seen it, you'll understand what we're talking about. If you haven't and you don't care about spoilers, I mean, this is probably where we're gonna rant about it. But you've been warned. So if you don't want to know anything about the plot in the movie or the specifics, well, now's the time.
Yeah. So, Flash opening.
Yeah. Flash, the opening of the movie.
Babies falling from a building.
All right. Well, it actually opens with the sandwich guy.
Yeah, but the sandwich guy is so annoying. No one cares about sandwich guy.
Right.
Actually, here's what I would say. That scene sets you up for... That scene opens up and sets you up for a certain tone of movie that never gets really matched after that. Because there's some parts in this movie where I don't know whether I'm supposed to be like laughing here or am I supposed to be like, kind of feeling emotional. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that on like a dialogue and kind of a story level, it's kind of all over the place in tone, and then it's not helped much by the fact that this movie looks tonally different all the time. Like it's not set in one set area. So they do kind of do a, well, here comes the title sequence, and then it gets interrupted, and they're like, now here comes the title sequence.
Which makes which makes it seem like it's going to be more of a comedy or something, Right,
and that they're going to have fun with it. And
then,
have fun with the movie, and it's like...
Right. So the movie starts off right with a giant action sequence, which isn't a bad idea to do. It's probably good, especially considering, the whole Flash... thing. Like we've never had a Flash movie, and DC is always hit or miss. It's probably a good idea to start the movie off with a lot of like chaos, But then the things that happen are so like I don't know if I was supposed to be laughing, because what happens is so Batman, Ben Affleck Batman,
yes, Ben Affleck Batman
is dealing with this heist gone wrong,
which sorry to interrupt you, but like. I like Ben Affleck Batman.
I do too. Yeah, I do too.
So I don't want to see any hate in the comments for Ben Affleck Batman. It's all misguided.
There'll be some. Yeah.
Well, they're all misguided, okay? Because he's a good Batman. So it was nice to see Ben Affleck Batman. We also get Batfleck Universe Alfred as well, who seems to be helming up everything now.
Yeah. So Batman needs help with something, and they make a joke out of it that like the only reason he's asking the Flash is because everyone else is busy. Like Superman's doing something, so it's like I guess I'll ask the Flash, which is kind of funny. But so the Flash gets there, and there's a building. It's a hospital that's like beginning to crumble, and like people are falling out of it.
Oh my god!
And they have this scene that's just like they have. There's like 10 babies that are like newborns in the hospital, and the building crashes, and all the babies fall out of the building at the same time. And you're watching in slow motion like 10 babies falling. And not only that, but like one falls, and there's like CGI like knives that are like coming towards its face, and then there's another one falling into a microwave or something.
Yeah, microwave baby.
There's a
microwave baby in this movie.
A baby and and like. I just started laughing so hard. It was probably meant to be funny, but I never expected I would go see a Flash movie and I would see like 10 babies about to be murdered in the first 5 minutes, like in like the most ridiculous way possible. And I mean, it looked horrible. Like all the babies looked CG. Like
it was
like,
terrible,
awful. Like
if any place where, and that doesn't help. That scene's in the first 15 minutes of the movie, and you can already tell it's not looking good.
Yeah, and then so he has to figure out how to save all these babies during this sequence, and it's the only sequence really that shows like super speed. Like everything else in slow motion, and him trying to like fix things.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, halfway through, he decides that and it felt like something they really harped on throughout this entire movie, and it didn't really come into play in any significant way. Was like he's like goes through a lot of calories because he's constantly running fast.
Yeah.
So like,
which is a thing like from the comics and stuff,
right?
Like
It's in the comics, but like they seem to like, I don't know, like kept overly harping on it for like comedic reasons. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, because in the middle of trying to save the babies, he starts to slow down and starts like getting into a vending machine and like making himself a burrito.
Yeah, he needs the calories to like burn off all the energy or whatever.
Right.
I mean, So there's this extended sequence of him saving these babies, and then it's done in like a super cheesy way where like he lines them all up on this table and he's like, "Look, I saved the babies."
And you should talk to a mental health blah 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 because we're not good at that with the Justice League.
Meanwhile, the actual good movie that's happening is Batman chasing down the fucking
the
like
better
bank robbers.
movies happening. I would also just like to point out that he saves the baby in the microwave.
Yes.
And then the microwave dings and goes off and he opens up the door to pull out the baby. Do you want to know what I got to like thinking about that this morning afterwards? One, it's not plugged in, so why did the microwave ding?
Yeah.
And then why would you even come close to the idea of possibly microwaving a baby?
Yeah, which is probably something Ezra Miller has done in real life. So.
We don't know. But like, it's like it doesn't help. So anyway, microwave falling babies, take that how you'd want. That's how we start. And then you're right. The better movie that we're missing out on because we're watching the Flash eat things out of a vending machine and save a microwave baby and other babies. Oh, and a dog.
And a dog.
And a service dog. Batman chasing after people with... What?
It was like some chemical that... Like some virus. Probably COVID. I don't know. It's just something.
Right. So he had like a box full of that like hanging over a river. And they're like, if it goes in there, it's going to be bad.
Yeah. And it's pretty dope. Like it makes me... I wish that we had the Ben Affleck Batman movie. Like the one that he was supposed to direct with Deathstroke. Like I wish we would have gotten that movie.
Look, there's movies that I wish we would have gotten. I still want post-apocalyptic Batman and Joker movie that we're never gonna get.
Yeah,
but, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I like that Ben Affleck came back to do it because he did say that he wasn't going to do Batman anymore or anything. So it was nice to see him come back and not just be like a Bruce Wayne cameo, but he actually gets to be Batman and do stuff, which is cool.
Right. The sad part is did he come back for it, or did they film it that long ago and we're just seeing it
That
now?
could be the case, too, yeah.
I mean, it did take that long for it to come.
Yeah, but at least he was Batman. He was doing some cool shit. People were saying, like, the blue cowl, that we've never seen in a movie before. It's not really a big deal, but it is kind of just like, we've never seen the blue one,
Right,
so that's kind of cool. And then there's also a brief Wonder Woman cameo.
Yeah, which was a total waste. And I don't know, a waste of time. I don't know why. I literally wrote, cameo, a waste, and just a toss. I don't know. Because she comes in, saves the day, helps pull up Batman and the dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that may be the only time in the movie that I kind of laughed was when, like, the...
Batman has the lasso of truth on him. And he's just like... I've developed this persona in order to compensate for my, past trauma or something. He's like, trying to get the lasso off. It's kind of funny.
It was kind of funny, but very much a throwaway. It didn't really...
Yeah, he didn't really need it, but... Well, it's probably the last time we're going to see both of them, like Ben Affleck, Batman, and Wonder Woman, so... That's like the last time.
That sucks that may be actually the last time. Now that you mention it, yeah. Because they are going a different gear after this, so God, yeah. Now, why'd you guys bring down the room already?
Man.
I didn't even think about that fact, but yeah. Yeah. So where do we go after that? Like, I was struggling earlier trying to remember where we went after that.
I think, let's see, after that scene, it goes back to Barry talking about his father's in prison, framed for the murder of his mother.
Right. Well, and he goes back to work.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's very awkward with Iris, who is the reporter girl.
Yeah.
Which is supposed to be like Barry's like canon like girlfriend in the series, but like she's hardly in this movie at all.
I mean, I would argue if you're going to edit anything out, just edit that stuff out. What was the point? She didn't really add anything other than it felt like, oh, right, this is supposed to be a pivotal character for Barry Allen, so we should probably have her in there.
Yeah.
But I don't really... I mean, I think she says maybe one thing that gives him an idea of what he should do with the whole Flash thing.
Yeah.
So she's merely used as like a jumping off point. But I think you could have easily given that to another character and it wouldn't have like skipped a beat.
Yeah.
They try in the very beginning to establish that Barry Allen has some sort of like, because they talk about there's this like girl that was a barista that he, seemed to they don't say that there was something going on, but like Barry kind of maybe likes her. I don't know.
I don't know, man.
And then we get the Iris West stuff, which just kind of felt really weird and forced. Like it was kind of like like if you did, I don't know. It was just kind of, I know it was meant to be awkward, but I felt awkward watching it. And I'm just kind of like, it didn't really, for two people that hadn't seen each other in a while, like, do like women just invite themselves in like that? I wouldn't know, but is that just how that works? Like,
well, Barry fumbled the bag in that case because she was there. And then he's just like, I gotta leave. It's like, it's your house, dude. Like, he's like, I'll leave you in my apartment while
I'm gonna just go screw off and go do this
and not explain what I'm doing. Yeah, I don't know. I feel bad for the actress because she was cast in like the Justice League movie too, and she was like cut out, and then she's in this movie and she has like two scenes that don't amount to anything. So it's just kind of like,
I hate to say it. I hate to say it again. Looking at it in that light, unfortunately, I hate to say it, she could probably have easily been cut out of this one too. Yeah, because it just doesn't. They didn't. It was just like one of those outlier storylines that they didn't intertwine into the main one like well enough for it to really be. Yeah, I don't know, worth putting in there. But.
So then Barry, then we have the Barry thinking about his parents and his mom, and they do this flashback of Barry as a kid with his mom and dad, and I understand the point of it, but it was so like almost unbearably corny that like it's just like one of those moments. Maybe I had like a different family experience growing up, but I never had a moment where like in the span of 2 minutes, it's like, oh, I love you, Mom. I love you, Dad. You're so funny.
Come here, scamp. How are you doing?
Yeah, like you're so silly, like, oh, I guess your mom wants me to go to the store again.
I'm not going to do it for Mom, but Barry needs crushed tomatoes. I guess I'll go.
I understand. Okay, I understand, like, we need to establish it's a good family dynamic, right? But it's just like the scene itself just felt like it was taken out of like a commercial for like, I don't know, something. Like it just nothing about it felt organic. It was very much like we are supposed to know that this is a happy, loving family and tragedy is about to strike.
If you wanted to see what a 50s happy family was, this is what it is. And oh God. Now that I'm looking back on it, it was pretty bad. Yeah. It was pretty corny.
It was very corny.
Yeah.
But so Barry remembers that moment. His dad leaves to go get a can of tomatoes. Right? Yes. And then while his dad is gone, his mom is killed right before his dad comes back. His dad comes back and goes to her, obviously. So she's got like a knife in her. And then his dad has like blood on his hands. But really it's just from going to like see her. So he gets framed for the murder. And that's why he's in prison. And that's why Barry became a forensics, guy with the...
Right. Very much establishing, like, things happen for a reason and we become who we are because of...
Right.
events that happen in our past. Setting up that kind of whole idea.
So then he goes, I forget what, he just kind of does it, right? Like he, when he first starts to reverse time a little bit. Like
so he like is kind of, he looks like he's like standing outside the house reflecting on this. He's got like his dad like in his ear and he's talking to his dad, and then the phone call ends, and then you presumably he looks upset, and so he's just like, I'm just gonna run as fast as I can because I'm upset. And then he starts running, and then you see him speed up, and then you kind of see him like pulse through some, I'm gonna call them barriers, probably
barriers.
Yes. Okay, so he pulls through some barriers, and then he just kind of keeps going, and then pops into some like blue universe, which they never really talk about, and then he ends up in the spot which kind of just looks like a giant treadmill in the middle of an arena that has like the timeline.
So it's really strange. It's kind of creative, but it's also really strange to look at. It's like, imagine just like a little ball of energy that he's inside. And then, like, around him, it looks like a stadium or a coliseum or something. Like, it looks like rows of seating, but like instead of seating, it's like images of the past.
Like it's the timeline like, in rows, like going up,
right?
And like, so he gets in there and he starts running. That's, I think, the first time where he realizes that he can go back and reverse time, because he goes back and pokes his head on Microwave Baby, and goes back to that and pokes his head out.
Which looked horrible.
That
was really bad.
Again,
it reminded me of in Thor: The Love and Thunder, where they had the floating head. Do you remember that? It was like that. It was like a floating flash head. It reminded. It was like, it was
so bad,
and both looked horrible.
So and I, it's an okay concept. I think what bugged me the most, and this doesn't really show until there's a scene in there. Like, there's going to be scenes in there throughout the entire movie, but there's one towards the end where they go to one side, and it literally looked like, so like there's like ground around them that kind of moves and molds into different things to be more physical, and then it kind of swoops up into more visuals after that. I think in one scene, I literally, and I said this to you afterwards, like there was a wall. Like, it looked like he was standing, like they filmed part of that of him standing in a room, like one of those like roundabout like CG rooms or however they do it, where they put it on the background. I could see where it like would kick up and then kicked up a wall up into it, and I was just like, it took me out of the movie because I saw it and I'm like, why? Like, why not just make it a And the other thing that drove me nuts about the Speed Force was, like, he's running presumably very fast, and then he reaches a point apparently where his legs start to go backwards because he's going backwards in time. In my brain, I'm like, I get it that it's supposed to be a visual cue probably to tell us Barry's going backwards in time.
Right.
But then there's just something weird about the fact that then he stops himself and his momentum is forward, not backwards. So he's running forwards with his legs going backwards, and then when he stops himself to stop himself in the timeline to peek in and go in, his momentum carries him forward, not backwards. This has bugged me since I saw it.
Hey, man, this is Speed Force physics, all right? It's different.
Just whatever. It's just it's Speed Force. That's another thing. Yeah. They don't really tell you explain what it is, but all of a sudden he just starts dropping that it's the Speed Force. So presumably the only thing you can draw is like, I guess this is this Speed Force and what happens when you get fast enough to brake.
I guess so, yeah.
Brake.
They don't really go into detail about it. It's just kind of mentioned.
Which in a movie that is spent a lot of time in that area and what it's about, they do no like real good setup about it.
Nah.
So
But anyways, he figures out that he can go back. So then we have our last Ben Affleck Batman moment where he's talking to him about it and wondering if he should do it or not. And obviously Batman's like, fuck no, don't do it. Like,
yeah, right.
You know, don't do it.
Kind of gives them the whole like
Butterfly effects.
the butterfly effect conversation. The like, you know, these things happen. He doesn't come out and say it exactly this way, but you know, Barry, things happen for a reason. You are who you are because of those things that happen.
Yeah.
If you go back in time and change that one thing,
you
may not become who you are now.
Right. But of course he does it anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
Just because.
Now, I do want to mention this real quick. Did you ever like watch like the Flashpoint animated movie or know about like the Flashpoint story in the comics?
I don't think I was thinking about this earlier. I don't think I've ever actually watched the Flashpoint stuff. Maybe I did. I do know. I mean, I know it was done in the comics. I know it was I think an animated movie at one point for DC.
Yeah. It's so much better than this movie.
I bet.
It's so much better.
Because I was going to ask you about this because you're more familiar with it than I am. Because like, I know that
I reread it like a few weeks ago just to kind of like remind myself of it.
Right.
Yeah.
I know there was like this idea that Barry goes back and corrects one thing, and then like it creates the Flashpoint paradox, and then there's like all these things that are happening because Barry decided to go back and save his mom.
Yes. So just real briefly, very, very briefly, same idea is in Flashpoint. He goes back to save his mom. Okay. He ends up doing that. But when he comes back, there's not two Barrys. It's just the timelines change. So he's still just himself and his mom is alive. But he doesn't remember all the new history. He remembers his history, but he doesn't remember the new history.
Okay.
So his mom comes up to him and like acts like everything's normal, and he's just like, you know, so enamored that she's alive. But so there's this whole new timeline. But in the Flashpoint comics, it's so much better because so basically like everything is fucked up. Like by saving his mom, like, you know, there's this ripple effect where everything is fucked up and the whole timeline's changed. The biggest thing that's happening is there's like a giant world war of like the Amazons, like the Wonder Woman side, versus the Atlanteans, the Aquaman. So Aquaman and Wonder Woman are literally like at war with each other.
Okay.
And it's crazy and it's awesome. Also, the Batman is not Bruce Wayne. It's Batman's father. It's a different time. So he messed up the timeline. So Bruce, as a child, is the one that gets shot. And then Bruce's dad becomes Batman.
Oh, I forgot about
that.
Yeah,
and
okay.
he's like,
I do remember hearing that.
And he's like a fucking like Punisher Batman. Like he kills people. Like he don't give a shit. Like So that Batman would have been much cooler to see in this movie. Even though I love Michael Keaton. Don't get me wrong. I love Michael Keaton. I think they do some cool stuff with him in this movie. But I would have liked to see something different. We've seen Bruce Wayne Batman over and over and over again. Multiple, like every 5 years, there's a new Batman. We were talking about that.
All I said is like DC, like that studio is now the company where they're like, what do you mean it's not doing well?
Yeah.
Put Batman in it. No, screw the movie. Make it a Batman movie.
So I would have loved to see like a different kind of more darker, older, version of Batman that we get.
Is it that comic book, the one where like, so the Bruce dies, his father becomes Batman, but doesn't his mother go crazy and become the Joker?
Yeah.
God, it's so much better than what we got.
So there's that going on. There's the war going on. And what they do in this movie is similar, where Superman, he doesn't land in Kansas because the timeline change. He lands somewhere else and they capture him. So basically the same thing that they do with Supergirl in this movie is the same, but it's Superman in the Flashpoint.
Gotcha.
So that's basically how it. And also, Flashpoint has the Reverse Flash as the main villain, which is he's not in this movie at all. So they just didn't include him.
Yeah.
So that's like the main difference. And like I don't understand why they couldn't have done that. You know?
Yeah. It sounds like they pulled certain aspects of it, but they didn't. I think that's another problem this movie has is there's not a villain in this movie.
There really is no like main antagonist, and it's not Zod, despite what the trailers might make you think.
Yeah, they really make it look like Zod's going to be the main baddie, and he's not at all. It's like almost like a side campaign that's going on. That's just kind of going on in the background.
Right, yeah.
And like, your character hears about it, and he's like, all right, I guess I'll go finish the side campaign. And then he goes and shows up, and deals with the Zod stuff, and then like that's about what it is. I don't know.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Or maybe no, it's the other way around. Everything that's happening in the Flash is just one long side campaign. In the meantime, there's like a Zod movie.
Oh yeah, in
like
the meantime, like there's an
movie.
alien invasion on Earth with like the Kryptonians coming down. But
Oh
we
my
don't,
God.
But we don't see any of it. We're just with the Flash.
Dude,
Yeah.
that just reopened my brain. This movie is nothing but a side quest.
Yeah, this movie is a side quest.
There is a main quest going on
Yeah.
right now where like Zod is taking over a planet, is going to wipe it clean because he needs Superwoman's blood to do it. In the meantime, our movie that we get to watch is the side quest that is the Flash.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
I hate that I just put that together because it makes so much sense and I don't like it. It's just, God.
Yeah. All right. So, anyways, continuing to go in order. So Flash. Well, first when he goes back in time and switches it, basically he puts the can of tomatoes that she would have needed that the father went out to get in her shopping cart, so that obviously that would never have happened.
Right.
So he does manage to save his mom. But when he's in the timeline before he comes back out, there's like this creature, this like black, dark-looking Flash creature that like comes out and it like punches him out of the timeline.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. And at first I thought that was cool because number one, that was not in the trailers. So whatever that thing was like, I was like, is this going to be our antagonist? I got hyped up and then I was very let down because it does not come into play again until the very, very end of the movie for like 5 minutes. So you had me for a second. I was like, what the fuck is this thing? I was like, is this like the Black Death or something? You know, some kind of like timeline monster. I'm like, oh shit.
Dude, I was hoping,
like,
because I can't remember if this is touched on in the... I don't know. I kind of like the idea that there is some speedster that is there to protect the Speed Force. And now that you've gone back, monkeyed with the timeline and moved something, the consequences. And I think that's out of the television show, now that I'm thinking about it. Like this idea that there's other speedsters in the world that is there to reinforce and protect the timeline and the Speed Force. You've monkeyed with it.
Right.
So why can't this like just black, just crazy looking Speed Force dude? Why can't, or like Speedster? Why can't? And I'm using Speedster, and I'm pretty sure that's the thing out of the television show.
I think that's just a Flash thing.
Okay,
I think,
So like my thing is like that would have been. That's what I was hoping for. That's kind of what I was hoping it was going to be.
I got stoked because the design was cool. I thought it looked cool, and then I didn't see it in the trailer, so it was unexpected. And then it's also like, yeah, let's give Flash somebody to fight. Like, let's give him an antagonist because...
I really like the idea that there's multiple, like, just other speedsters out there in the timeline there to try to protect the timeline. Or, given what we know about the end of the movie, like, why isn't it other Flashes trying to come in and, like, protect?
Sure, yeah.
Because they know what's about to happen. Like, there's going to be colliding worlds. Like, why can't we have that? I feel like there's a better rework in there where like there's other speedsters or other Flashes that show up and then maybe you get your Reverse Flash or something else.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, maybe a villain out of the Flash world. I don't know.
Any of them. I mean,
anything. Yeah, like just something, anything.
Yeah, there's no Flash villains in the Flash movie.
Right.
Not even like a side one, not even a small one, not even like a Captain Cold or like some like that we would defeat in the first 5 minutes of the movie or anything. Like
right. Nothing.
No Flash villains.
There's a Superman villain.
There is a Superman villain, but he's like in 5 minutes of the movie.
There's yeah, that's the problem. It's Barry versus the timeline. That's what that's it. There's no And you can't physically put a timeline. Well, I mean, unless you get to, I mean, the guy that he turns out at the end of the movie is just the second Barry.
Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. So let's go with
so frustrating
when he comes back and he meets his younger self. Right. So he comes back. It's not. He didn't just change the timeline. He like swapped universes.
Right, which
that's the thing that like fucked it up because, like I said, in Flashpoint, he changed the timeline. In this one, he's in like a different timeline now. Like, basically, they try to explain it with spaghetti.
Who Batman, knower of all time travel, time travel
fucking,
expert.
Like, Batman just knows everything about time travel, obviously, because he's Batman. How does he know this? He's just Batman, so he does. I don't know. But there's, like, particular events that always happen, and these events are, like, where all the timelines intercross, I guess.
So basically, when you have your bowl of spaghetti, okay, the spaghetti is going to touch at certain points. This is like the different universes overlapping and touching at certain points. There's certain events that happen regardless.
I got a question. Was he cooking spaghetti before he had to give this lecture, or did he specifically cook the spaghetti in order to explain the timeline?
I think he was just cooking spaghetti. Can we talk about that too? I have that down. We know who they. Okay, so they end up after Barry meets himself, and then has the awkward cringe moment with the parents that he doesn't know and doesn't have any memory of or know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
meets his former self, which we'll get into how annoying and how much this just wrecked the movie for me.
Mm-hmm.
And presumably how bad it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go and they decide, well, we got to find Batman because Batman was helpful in my universe. Yeah. They go to the Batman mansion, which is, I think, pretty much the same one they've been using.
Yeah, it's weird because, so you have Michael Keaton Batman, so you're wondering, is this canonically the same Batman from the Tim Burton Batman movies?
Right.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, spoilers, I don't think it is.
I don't think it is because, number one, the world that he ends up in is not a Tim Burton world. Tim Burton has a very specific look to his movies and his cities.
Right.
And he has that gothic, almost 1930s sort of vibe to it.
No, gothic 1930s. Yeah. That's very much what it is.
That's not what anything looks like in this movie.
Look, unless the program to clean up the streets of Gothic was that good, so good to a point where in 20, 30 years they clean up the entire town, switch the whole architecture of the entire town.
Yeah,
it's not.
There's no references to the Tim Burton Batman movies. He never mentions. I mean, they show the Batmobile and they show the little Joker pouch thing, but I gotta think that this isn't the same one. It just nothing else aligns.
Yeah, it was a little weak sauce on the whole thing.
By the way, they show the Batmobile in the Batcave, but they never use it.
You're right, they never do.
They never use it.
God, why? Why is everything cool?
He only uses the jet, the plane.
That's right, they use the jet. I don't even think it looked Of course, weirdly, the thing that I liked most was the Batman Forever one. But anyway, my thing, he uses spaghetti to try to explain the timelines. But there's a whole scene where Batman, who's got everything on lockdown, and we later find out has security cameras everywhere, lets both Barrys walk into his house, walk around his house, get into his kitchen, and meanwhile, Batman's held up in a pantry about ready to jump out and do some business.
Right, yeah.
In that scene, okay, we get a fight scene where he's fighting both Barrys and we didn't even get into when the whole thing happens where
right, yeah.
I forgot about this completely.
So
I mean you can take it.
So Barry arrives basically on the day that he gets his powers.
Yeah.
But because he changed the timeline, the younger Barry never went into forensics, so he's not there to get hit with the chemicals and get his powers.
Right. He's not there to get struck by lightning through the chemicals and all that. Yeah.
So they got to break in, which is an okay scene. It shows how the Flash vibrates his molecules through the
God,
the
they
thing.
love that every time.
They did it a lot. So he takes the younger Barry up there to where he would have been, which also strange. The timeline changed, but all the same chemicals are all in the same place. You would imagine they were there for a reason, they were working on some, I don't know, whatever. That's a minor detail. That's a nitpick, but still. And the lightning hits in the same place. So what happens is the lightning hits both of them, and it actually gives the younger Barry the powers, but takes it away from the older Barry.
Right, reverses it off of the
yeah,
our starting Flash.
Right. which is a problem because the older Barry obviously knows how to use them and he's more mature and stuff like that, and the younger one's just like a little like dipshit like running around.
The meeting that character. I get why they did it, because there is kind of the running theme throughout the entire movie of looking back at one's younger self.
Yes.
Seeing where you were and what you are now.
The character is supposed to be annoying.
Right.
But he's really fucking annoying.
And like so much so that like you're going to, if you watch this movie, well, if you're watching with us this far, you've probably seen the movie. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like I just wanted to walk out of the theater at a certain point. I'm like, why is this so annoying? And why? And it never stopped. It never stopped. The fight scene at the end is marred with it because he's still teaching younger Barry, and it's just annoying.
Yeah, I think that again in the Flashpoint, like the comic story, when he comes back, he doesn't have his powers because he changed the timeline and he needs to get zapped by lightning to get him. So it's again kind of taken from that, but they changed it so much that it's it's whatever. Like the scene later when he's sitting in the chair and needs to get zapped, that happens in the comics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
I felt that was a little weird, but okay.
Yeah. But
now that you say it, so comic book wise, that's actually what it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So did they put
in the comics, he goes to find Batman, like they do in this one, but it's just him, and then he finds like it's the Thomas Wayne Batman. Batman like breaks his arm or something because he's like, "What are you doing in my Batcave?" and like fucks him up, which would have been cooler to see in this movie.
Oh my god!
And then he, once he explains everything, eventually convinces him. Then he's like, "Well, I have to get my Speed Force powers back," and then they come up with the chemicals in the chair thing and have him get struck by lightning.
So, I mean, did we see Double Flash just so that we could keep doing Flash shit throughout the entire movie and not have to drop it?
I guess.
Because presumably if you don't do that, if we don't have the second Flash running around that gets the powers, then we're just stuck with Barry having to be Barry. Which now that I say that out loud and hear myself... A story where Barry has to learn to be Barry and then realizes that he needs to become the Flash and figure all that out again in order to fix the timeline, do all that is so much better than what we got.
Yeah.
So now that you say it, because there's like a lot of aspects of like the Flashpoint that's in there, but I feel like Second Flash was merely brought in because, this is the Flash movie, and if we don't, then we just have a almost hour and a half of Barry without powers running around becoming. Which I think is a sad way to look at it, and I really wish they didn't do it. If that was the case. I'm not saying that is, but like now I'm just sitting here going like, man, like somebody, Barry having to sit there and realize that he doesn't have his powers, like, who am I without these? Can I still be helpful with or without? And then, now, that thought is very cliche. You see that in a lot of superhero movies, but, like, at the same time, you see it in a lot of movies because it works. Like, God. Now, see, why did we bring in the comic into this?
Yeah,
now I'm just like...
Watch the, I think it's on HBO, or Mac. It's on Max.
Oh, yeah, on Max.
Watch the Flashpoint animated movie.
I'll have to do that.
It's way better than this movie.
Yeah. So I think my whole thing, because we went on a tangent about Keaton Batman when they first, and we completely we forgot about the whole like losing of powers and stuff but when that fight scene's happening when we first meet Keaton Batman, I know because your marketing campaign told me I know who this is. And then it's not like you hit it very well as to which Batman we're about to see. Yeah. I know who it is, and then we watch a fight scene where they purposely made it
they
so like
hide his face,
hair, or in like it looked like they hit like shadowed his face, so you couldn't really tell who it was. Right. We all know who it is. Just show us who it is.
Yeah. There's no mystery there.
Right. The mystery's gone. You've ruined it, so just show it to us. So that irked me, and then that's when he starts cooking pasta, and then all of a sudden he's a timeline like expert.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
So Barry convinces him to be Batman again in like the span of a few minutes, and he shaves his entire beard and comes back as Batman.
That's after Batman's just like, be gone, or I'm not helping. He's like, no.
It's that classic trope of like the old character that's like giving it up and I'm not this person anymore. You know, we've seen that a million times too.
Right.
You know?
And once again, this is supposed to be like a different universe, so you think things would have changed a little bit. But Barry's just like, oh, yeah, no, if we go over to this pipe over here and we just break into this grate and drop down a little bit, that's where the Batcave is.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of like, wait, what?
Yeah, he just goes in there.
And then Batman just lets him sit in there and he's just like doing things.
Yeah.
And then you're just kind of like, and then that's when Barry's just like, I know you're watching me over the cameras.
Yeah.
And then that's, for whatever reason, when Keaton's just like, all right, I guess
I'll be Batman again.
I guess I'll help him be Batman again.
Yeah.
And go shave and go do a whole bunch of other stuff, In the meantime, let's all remember that Zod is taking over the planet during this entire time.
Yeah.
So we have Spaghetti Batman explaining the universe to me.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Zod is like, I'm terraforming this world.
Apparently, like the Man of Steel, like when Zod came, is like the day after Barry gets his powers for the first time. Like it's just like the next. It's the next day. Yeah, it's the next day. So so Zod comes down like the same way as in Man of Steel, and is like puts out his message to the world like he did before. And there's like the ships that are hovering over the major cities. So that's happening, and then meanwhile we're playing with spaghetti, like figuring out, the timeline. And so then they're like, okay, well, Zod is here. So in my universe, Superman fought Zod. So we got to find out if Superman is here. Right. So they're searching for him. And then I forget how they figured it out. It's like there was like a spaceship that fell or something. They figure it out some way.
Wait, about...
Because they're looking for Superman, and then they figure out he's being held, or they think it's him being held at the Russian facility or whatever.
Didn't they? Yeah, he searches up like objects that flew into space or flew in from outer space roughly at the same time that, however old, like she would have been. Oh, and then he couldn't find her, and then all of a sudden, that's it. Batman just hands him a file, and it's just like, I'm pretty sure this is who you're looking for.
Right, let's just go break into this facility.
He's never met her, and as we came to conclusion earlier, never talked to her.
Well, yeah, this is the weird... Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, we can mention that. Is like, so our team in this movie is like the two Barrys, Michael Keaton, Batman, and Supergirl, right? But like, I might be misremembering, but I don't think there's ever a moment in this movie where Batman and Supergirl exchange any dialogue. Like, I don't think they talk to each other in this movie.
I think the closest it ever gets to, and I don't think she says anything really, is where, like, he's up top and the Double Barrys and her are standing down on the other side and they're talking about, like, and he's just like, oh, so we would have been the Justice League or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so this is the team. And he's just like, and Flash is basically, hey, man, are you in? Like, can you help us with this? But you're right. I think that's the closest she ever comes. Like, that's the closest they've been in the same room other than when they break her out of the Russian facility.
Yeah.
Which we're coming up on. Now that I think about it.
So, so they find out, they think it's Superman. Right. They don't know that it's a female yet. Right. So they go to this Russian facility to break him out. And this scene is pretty well done. I will say. The Batman, the Michael Keaton stuff during this scene. I don't think it's like the greatest fight scene ever. I don't think it's better than like the Ben Affleck, warehouse fight scene from Batman v Superman or anything.
There's not very many things that top that.
Yeah, but like...
this is one of those scenes where I would go to YouTube and want to watch this scene again.
Yeah, it's basically like the moment to show, hey, we're going to show Michael Keaton kick ass right now. Like,
yes.
This is that scene.
Exactly.
And he does. They break in. It's sort of like he, flies down from the top with his cape, and it's like Arkham. He grabs the one guy, pulls him up, and then drops him. Like you do in the Arkham games.
It's got like the comically big
it takes out like 4 dudes with the batarang, and he's throwing kicks and shit, and he's like 70 years old and somehow doing this. But it's all good. It's Batman. You can do it. Whatever.
I mean, Bale Batman just put a knee brace on both knees.
Yeah,
and he was good to
that's
go.
all he needed.
So,
yeah, so it's pretty good. It's a pretty good fight scene. I'd say it's a pretty good Batman. If you're a Batman fan or a Michael Keaton fan, that's probably the scene that you want to see.
If we're comparing this to the rest of the movie, it is the most solid action sequence in the entire thing.
Yeah, so, for sure.
But even then, like so they finally get in there and get her out of there, which I'm presuming. See, I thought the like shell that they were keeping her in, I didn't know whether that was like kryptonite lined, and that's why she was like.
I think it was like
or it was just because she did not have any access to like.
She didn't have access to the sun because like the sun like rejuvenates them, like enhances their strength or whatever. So they're keeping her like locked away like in the darkness.
Okay.
Yeah. And but they do break her out. They're like, well, this isn't Superman, but let's save her anyways because
right. Like this isn't right for anybody. Yeah.
So then they get her out to the top. They escape through the top.
Grab the suit too while they were at it.
Grab the suit, yeah. And,
which if they're keeping her in a hole like that, like why do they have like that just?
Oh, they just keep her suit in there, yeah.
Yeah, why do they keep her suit in there? Who knows?
Who knows?
Oh man.
Yeah, but then you have the moment again that's in the trailer. So they get to break out, and then they get surrounded by dudes with guns, and you have one Barry that does have the Speed Force, but he got shot in the leg, so he can't run.
Yeah.
And then the other Barry doesn't have the powers, and the other one is Batman, which Batman's cool, but there's like 20 guys with like assault rifles. So
again, this isn't a Batman movie. It is supposed to be a Flash movie.
Yeah,
and you just put a bullet in the knee of our main character. Now it's the Batman movie.
Yeah. Well, then it becomes the Supergirl movie because then that's the moment for her to like show how cool she is. So she like goes up into the sun, gets powered up, and then like takes all the dudes out. Which is,
dude, can I tell you a thing that just irks me about that entire scene when I'm watching that?
Sure.
You should stay tuned and subscribe because he's got another video he's working on for Nightmare.
Okay.
On Elm Street.
Okay.
And I know there's a time where you were complaining about how somebody threw a punch in those movies.
Yes.
So you went through a whole thing about how to properly throw a punch.
Yeah.
Did you see how Supergirl punches?
Other than just like swooping around,
it's freaking comical. I could not notice because there's just like the outer swings like this the entire time. I don't think she could bend at her elbows, and she threw punches like this the entire time. Of all dumb crap, I got like hooked on. I'm like, why is she throwing punches like that?
I mean,
there's just like no form. It was just like, okay.
I mean, to be fair, when you're that strong, you don't really need form.
I guess, but like, it was just kind of funny to watch me like, yeah, and you're like, what is this? That look it only bugs me because of my background. So
no,
like,
I feel you. Yeah.
So anyway, weird punching Supergirl after that.
Well, she does that, and then she just flies away. And they're like, well, I guess that was, I guess that didn't matter. She comes back later, obviously. But
again, they go and break her out of a Russian facility, and there's no consequences from that.
Yeah.
You just broke somebody out of a Russian facility, and there's no other time in the movie where they even go. It's even brought up, or there's any consequence as to you just broke somebody out of like a highly secured Russian facility.
I'm sure the Putin in this timeline will be fine. He's got other things going on.
It is a little weird that there was no follow up or anything happened with that. Yeah. But anyway, so.
So while all this is going on, Zod is invading the planet somewhere.
Still going on.
Yeah, somewhere. So then, now, finally, after all this, that's when Barry decides that I got to get my powers back. After all of that, like, that wasn't the first thing you think you should do, especially when you're going to go try to break someone out of like this crazy facility and. You have one 70-year-old man in a bat suit and then another like 18-year-old who just got powers yesterday. Like, you don't think that it might be useful for you to have your powers first before you do this?
Why wasn't that his first thought when he realizes he doesn't happen? Why isn't that his first thought? His first thought is to find Batman and do all this other stuff. You're right. Why wasn't that his first thought? This is the Flash movie. Why wasn't the Flash's first thought after he lost his powers? Why wasn't it, I needed to get it back?
At least before they're about to go do some like potentially like dangerous, might get shot in the face kind of, mission.
Right.
You're going to go just yourself. He's not even wearing like a bulletproof vest. He's just got nothing. He's wearing street clothes.
God. That's right.
Yeah. He's just nothing.
What the heck?
He didn't even give him a bat suit to put on.
It got nothing.
At least some body armor,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's even worse. The more we're talking, the worse it's getting. I think I may have ranked it too high out of 10. The more we talk about it.
Yeah.
You're right. He just shows up in street clothes.
I understand the purpose was to sneak in and not be noticed, but you would think you would take at least a little bit of a precaution or something.
Any way to be helpful?
Yeah.
Just anything?
Yeah. Or why even
yourself?
go? Just send Batman.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I mean, if his whole goal was to get his power, his powers back, then we wouldn't have had to deal with, it wouldn't have given us such lovely scenes between him and himself, who's just younger, and having to teach him everything.
Yeah. And again, think about how much has happened in this movie, and we haven't had any Flash super speed scenes or set pieces.
Right. We have not seen.
They had the one in the beginning with the babies, and that's it.
And him running really fast to go backwards. That's about all we've had.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. We've not had a fight sequence or a fight scene. I think that's our first one, and it's not even much of anything because we have, Barry 2, who doesn't know what he's doing. He
doesn't do anything, yeah.
He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
And instead it's Supergirl with her non-bendable elbows.
Right.
Things.
So yeah.
Okay, so now we're at Barry's gonna get his. Barry decides after all of this time, that maybe I should get my powers back because I know how to use them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then gets struck by lightning.
Oh, and this is about the time because he's convincing Keaton Batman to help him with this. Yeah, and this is about the same time where. I think Barry, I'm just going to refer to him as Barry 2. Barry 2 at one point had asked, why are you here? Why are you back here?
Right.
Which is a legitimate question. Why are there two of us and why are you here?
Yeah.
And Barry 1 never answers, really.
Yeah, he never tells him that he came back to save their mom. And the younger Barry overhears it.
Right.
In this part of the movie. And, that's kind of what sets him up for what happens in the ending. So he goes to get his powers back. The first time the lightning strike doesn't work, and then Supergirl comes back, and
it was very Benjamin Franklin with the bat kite up in the sky.
Yeah.
It was just we're gonna send a pulse up to get electrocuted to send the pulse back down into Barry.
Yeah.
And you're right, it doesn't work.
Yeah, until Supergirl shows up.
Because she ran away earlier.
Yeah.
She just
She's nah, fuck you guys. I'm not a human.
Yeah. Because they get her back in the suit, get her back and everything, and then she's just I'm off, and then ends up. Which do we ever? I don't remember. I think.
She goes and watches 50 people die by Zod.
Oh right, okay.
Does
I was
nothing,
trying to figure. I couldn't remember if she did anything. Yeah. Right, and then she's just yo. Hey, you guys remember that Zod's attacking the planet right now?
He's still attacking the planet this whole time. Yeah.
Once again, it's the side quest thing.
Yeah.
There's bad things happening, and meanwhile, you're on a side quest to brush your teeth. This is what's going on.
So she takes him up into the sky, gets electrocuted. Then he gets his powers back that way. Right. Well, whatever. And then they decide, okay, we're a team now. All right. Even though we have no moments where these characters really interact.
I'm sorry, but wouldn't it have been more comical if that didn't work? So then we're stuck with Newberry that has to figure it out.
God. Yeah, that would have been horrible. I wouldn't have put it past them to do that either.
You're right.
Yeah. Anyways, But yeah, so there's supposed to be this team, but like we have no like moments with them as a team. You know, like I said, like Supergirl and Batman, I don't think they share any dialogue. I don't know.
Yeah, there's
something
no
strange about it. Like,
I think from here on out, the rest of the movie, I don't think there's a screenshot of them ever together, all together, except for when they're in the jet flying out to the situation.
yeah.
Beyond that, you never see more than like two characters in the same screen ever.
Yeah. So that leads into the big, action climax at the end of this movie, and this is what I thought looked like terrible. This looked terrible, I thought. Again, I don't know if it's just because it was like a flat, barren desert landscape. Like, why couldn't this take place in Metropolis? Like that's where in Man of Steel, like the shit goes down. But here it's in the desert.
I think the other thing that's weird.
And I'm sure it's easier on the CGI artist to animate an empty background than a city background, obviously. But like, it just looks so bland.
I think what's weird about this movie, it's unfortunately one of those things you kind of have to see to understand what we're trying to explain with the color and what it looks like. Because it's just bizarre. Is like the other. What was I going to say? What's weird to me is there's certain sections like, and I don't know why, like Batman's logo on his chest sometimes looks oversaturated. Like they they hyped up the color, tweaked the color so it was a little oversaturated. In some scenes and some things look a little bit like overly done, oversaturated. Like Barry's suit when he goes, which they tried to make into a big deal when he finally is back into his own suit.
Yeah.
Which doesn't hit as hard because you have Barry 2 running around in it all the film. Yeah. So it's not really a big deal when he ends up back into it and then hacks up a bat suit into another one, but we won't go there.
Yeah. So the other Barry takes a bat suit and spray paints it red and makes it look like a Flash suit,
which then gets into the whole like he's got to dissipate the energy thing off, which all of a sudden becomes a big thing at the end. But yeah, it's weird. I know what you're like. I've seen it, so I know what you're talking about. But it's like really hard to explain. Like
it is kind of hard to explain.
What the color was just so weird in the movie.
It looks like you said, like plastic or like clay or something. Like there's something about it that's not right. And there's nothing visually interesting to look at because it's a flat desert landscape. And like all the characters they're fighting are like nameless, like they're all just wearing suits and covering their faces. So it's just empty. Like the Flash doesn't fight anybody. Like I understand. Okay. Obviously, Zod is going to be more powerful than the Flash. I get it, but they still could have fought. And obviously, I get it. Supergirl fights Zod. Okay, but even they don't even really have much of a fight. And also, let's talk about Zod. All right, sorry, I'm getting like I'm going to rant now.
I think the other thing, because I know the Zod rant's coming, and I'm going to get out of your way for that one. I think the other problem during that whole last scene is you have a whole bunch of military personnel that are all wearing out in the middle of a desert like black gear. Like dark colored gear, and then you have Zod and those guys all wearing dark colored gear. So there's nothing to differentiate on the battlefield who's who and what's what. In that fight, the entire time, there's never like there's this moment of like we're on this side and you're on that side. I get that that's not how things work, but when you're trying to give me enough visual information so that I can follow on the screen what's happening, I'm gonna need you to line them up one on one side versus the other, and to some extent try to keep that. Yeah, and they don't. And it's a mess.
No, I can definitely see that and agree with that. And again, going back to the Flash and his powers, like another reason it would have been cooler to do it in a city is because there's so many things he could interact with super speed. There's nothing interesting about like the way the Flash fights at the end of this movie because it's just like there's like 6 dudes in a line. And he just runs through the line and like takes their gun and punches them. Where if it was in a city, you could have him like running up the side of a building or getting knocked into like an office, and you could have like things like falling and exploding in slow motion while he's doing things. Like there's nothing for him to interact against, you know?
Right. There's nothing to interact against.
There's no environment for him.
And I would also add that there's no consequence or risk fighting out in the middle of a desert.
Yeah.
Other than the two crew, obviously the people there, they're
Like the military.
The military, yes. But you don't have like this added, you don't add any intensity to the scene or anything else to the scene, having it where it is. If it is in a city, you have like, Barry's got to be comfortable with other people getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I do this, am I going to wreck this building that's got this X amount of people in there? If there are people in the way, I'm trying to run, but I got to weave through people.
And they make this huge deal about the father he couldn't save in Metropolis in his timeline, because Zod shows up like right after he gets his powers and he saves the little kid and not the father. And like if you had the final fight scene in Metropolis, you could have had those characters in this timeline, and he could have like redeemed himself and saved
saved the
them.
kid in that timeline and kind of closed that emotional loop there. You're right.
Yeah,
that could have been a. There, you're right. There's so many like emotional, like how do I want to explain it? There's so many emotional loopholes that they could have closed simply by moving the fight from the desert into a city.
Yeah.
And you're right. It could have solved so many different things for him, but that's not what they chose to do.
Yeah, could have done that. Could have had more things for him to interact with or up against. And, like super speed and just a flat landscape is just like you just run. But like if you got to avoid buildings or like, go across a city park or a pond or like, I don't know, just like things for him
something. Yeah.
Or like, again, sorry, but like the X-Men movie where the mansion's exploding. What if he's in a building and it's fucking blowing up and he's like has to bounce from like wall to wall or something, or like, manage to get out of it, or just cool shit you could do with super speed. I don't know. Anything. It's a Flash movie. Let's see the Flash do Flash shit.
You mean this isn't the Superman v Batman movie when I'm confused?
I just like it's crazy, man. And then we got Zod.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm going to stay out of your way for this one because I know this irks you quite. Like,
well, yeah. Well, the thing is, like, okay, like I don't think like Zack Snyder is like the best director in the world or anything, but like I do legitimately enjoy his Man of Steel movie. I love that movie a lot, and I think he did a great job making Zod a real character. Like he gave him a motivation. You understood him. He was menacing. He was powerful. Like they really did a good job, I think, of making him a villain in that movie. And so I didn't expect Zod to be like the prime focus of this movie or anything, but like I expected maybe like letting him be a character, but he was more of just a plot device. He was just something that was there, that was something that Barry screwed up. He was just something for Supergirl to fight for a minute in the movie. He was there just so that there would be something to be there.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. He doesn't. Does Flash ever actually have any interaction or conversation with Zod?
No, I don't know.
Okay,
no.
I didn't
he has
think
one
so.
moment where Supergirl flies up and he talks to her about like the Codex, the thing he was looking for, and that he intercepted the Kal-El pod and presumably killed, baby Superman.
Right.
That was it.
But again, that's between Superman and Zod.
Yeah, well, Supergirl and Zod. Yeah.
Or I keep making.
Yeah.
Supergirl and Zod.
Yeah.
So once again, Flash movie.
No Flash villain.
No Flash villain.
Flash doesn't even interact with the villain here, which is Zod.
And the end of the movie is more of a Supergirl ending than it is a Flash ending.
With like the battle scene, yeah,
right. With
this Kryptonians.
At this point in the movie, we're in a Supergirl movie. We're not in a Flash movie. Once again, the main movie is a Supergirl movie, and we're in the side quest movie of the Flash.
Yeah. So I think that is just it's just a bummer, man. Like it's a bummer to bring Zod back, to not really do anything with him other than just use him as a plot device. And then also it's a Flash movie with no Flash villain. It's a Flash movie where the Flash doesn't get to really showcase his powers that much. And just like, I don't know, takes me out of it, man. Takes me out of it. Not to mention the fact dealing with like two Ezra Millers and then we finally get back. All right. So going back to the movie though, So what happens is both Batman and Supergirl die in this fight in the battle that's happening.
Yep.
And the younger Barry is the one that decides, I'm going to try to go back in time to fix this, right? And then the older Barry tries to follow him to stop him because it's kind of inevitable. It's like, and he does it once. He reverses time a little bit once, and then they get killed a different way. Like, he saves them, but then the battle goes on and they still die.
Barry 1 kind of comes to the conclusion that this is just a point in time that we're not going to be able to stop. That Batman and Supergirl are both going to die, and there's just no stopping it. It's like a...
Right.
I think this is where he talks about this is one of those intersections in universes where this is what happens.
Yeah, it's just an inevitability. But the younger Barry keeps trying to stop it.
Right.
So he just keeps going like back and back and back and back. And then it pulls it back to that creature that we saw in the beginning. And it's the revelation that like that strange thing in the timeline or the Speed Force or whatever is the younger Barry that has presumably been trying to go back and back and back and back. Like,
right, which they show him progressively getting more angry, like, hey man, why aren't you trying to help?
Yeah.
And then he goes out there and he's like doing this over and over and over again, and then that's when they do the reveal of that, which I mean you can look at it like thematically, like the villain is himself, right? Like he has to face like it's the same choice he made earlier, but in a more aggressive way of trying to go back and save somebody. You know, it's if I never learned from my mistakes and this is what I could have been or who I would have become. Right. But then again, like these are all the things that we're coming up with looking back on it. I don't think it was that deep for that.
In the movie, it's very disappointing because not only did they set up something that looks like a really cool like thing, but it's all resolved within like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like you get the reveal that the creature from the beginning is Barry, and then it's defeated in like less than 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Because Barry 2 jumps in front of creepy Barry who stabs him, thus ending the
He kills himself. So so the real message of the movie is
kill yourself.
Just kill yourself. Yeah.
I mean, so here's my frustration. I feel like they kept I'll call him younger Barry, but Barry 2, whatever we're calling him. They kept him very immature and naive throughout the entire movie to set up a moment at the end of the movie where he finally it clicks. He becomes like this sense of like maturity happens, and he makes a very mature choice and decides that he needs to end this, and steps in front of older Barry before he's about to get stabbed. Yeah. And takes that, and then presumably stops that loop from happening. I get that. I get that that's probably a good portion as to why they did it that way. But my thing is like, why didn't you start that process earlier? Like when he realizes that the other older Barry is there because he was trying to save his mom, why didn't that start the like, I need to be like, the stakes are high. Like, this is why he came back. He's trying to save our mother. Like, why didn't it click more in younger Barry that, like, we need to be more mature about it? Like, if you would have set the seed there and having it kind of grow and him, make legitimate points to try to be mature, then that end makes a lot more sense when he finally makes the ultimate mature decision by stepping in front of Barry. Yeah. But it's not done that way. It's just kind of like, even in the last battle when they're learning to fight, it's still very naive and like
still just like the goofy Barry. Yeah.
Goofy Barry. Yeah. And so it kind of frustrates me a little bit that they didn't set that seed longer ago. There was perfect moments to set the seed that you already did.
Yeah.
and they didn't do that, and that's just kind of again another one of those missed opportunity things. So.
Yeah. And then we get the moment of the cameos, right? And again, and I will say this, I kind of like the idea that, you know, while he's in this Speed Force and can see all the timeline, that there's all the other universe timelines too. They're kind of like, they kind of do it, they like pulls out, and it's sort of like you're looking at like a galaxy, like a timeline is like a planet. That's kind of what it looks like. It's like, there's like this timeline, and then this one, and they're all kind of like colliding into each other because Barry's fucking shit up.
I mean, what it looked like is like basically like you had whatever the central Speed Force is in the middle, and then like all the scenes come out from the bottom into this ball. Yeah. So when they're out and they do a pan out of the wide shot of all the universes, it's basically the Speed Force into center with all the scenes going up on the outside into a ball. Yeah, and which is kind of a neat. It is. It's kind of neat. Pretty cool.
And what I thought they were going to do with this scene, which is apparently what they not. We'll get to the end of the movie in a minute. But I thought with the timelines colliding into each other, that was going to be like the DC reset. I thought like the timelines were going to like crash into each other, and it was going to start a brand new like one singular timeline, and then that was going to be our new like DC James Gunn universe. That's what I thought.
That would have
was going to happen.
Okay, yeah,
because like that's the way that's the way you could do it. You could like crash them together, and then you could choose whatever actor from whatever version of DC you wanted, because you could say that was the version that was left over.
Right, because basically you basically just took every different version of a timeline that there could be and crashed them into one.
Yes.
So therefore, no matter where you were pulling from the DC, any DC property, you can technically go back to, well, they all crashed into one.
Yeah, so you could use whatever character from whatever version you wanted to.
I mean, if you wanted to do a reset and then make sure that no matter what, you had all characters to your, like, you know, at your arsenal, that, you're
so right. So that way, if they still wanted, like, Gal Gadot to be Wonder Woman, they could do that, but then they could also have a new Batman. You know what I mean? Because you could say that that's just the version that was, you know, that was used when the timelines collided. But that's not what they do. That's not what happens.
No.
But anyways, okay, so while we're showing the different timelines in different universes, we get like a bunch of cameos. And like, here's the thing, is like I kind of like the idea, but every cameo we get is just like a CG, like ugly version
of not the Flash,
of not the Flash, and not these characters. And the ones that they choose are very strange. When you have, because here's the thing: is like they're not bringing the actual actors in for a cameo. They're doing CG. It's like CG version. Some of them are obviously like long dead, but they're doing CG versions of the actors. So if that's the case, and you don't actually have to get the actual physical actor to be in the movie, that makes it even stranger that they didn't throw in like a Grant Gustin cameo, or a different Flash, or like the old school 90s TV show Flash. They show like Superman and Batman.
Yeah, I have. Okay, so I wrote down some of them that I can remember. So we get Superman, and we get the Reeves version, and we get Cage, which I think that was supposed to be.
Yeah. Okay. So first, it's like the old school 1940s Superman. You know, we see him, right? The black and white one.
Oh, that's right. We do. We get
black and white
40s. And this is after the only Flash that we get in this flashback scene is, I think, like the 40s, like old school Flash, the one running,
with, like,
the helmet and the wings, kind of looking up, and then like looking up at like what the heck's going on here?
Yep.
And why are we about to collide with that universe? And then you're right, it goes into the black and white Superman.
Yep.
Then we get
Christopher Reeves with Supergirl,
right,
together. Then there's like a brief Adam West Batman.
Right, I have that down. Batman 66, which we get the Cesar Romero laugh.
Yep.
Which I later, in just kind of looking up things, there was apparently a cut version of that was supposed to be in there, and Linda Carter Wonder Woman was supposed to be in there, and that got cut.
I mean, when you think about it, they could have added a lot more. I mean, they only show a couple.
Yeah, here's a novel.
It is strange.
It is strange, but here's a novel idea. Why not, Flash?
Why not show a Flash? Yeah.
Why not show a Flash? So far, this movie is everything but a Flash movie. It's a Superman movie because we get so much Superman content at the end. We get a Batman 66 kind of world. I'm trying to... And they hover on the Cage one for quite a while. Okay, so we gotta talk about the Nicolas Cage one. Okay, right. We gotta talk about...
So, this is... Okay, it's kind of awesome that they would even consider doing this, let alone, like... It's like a 30-second... It's like a decent amount of screen time. Right. It's not just like a quick 1-second thing.
No, they don't glance on it. It's a thing.
So, I'm sure if you've watched this review this long into it, you probably already know this, but... There was originally supposed to be a Tim Burton Superman movie, and he casted Nicolas Cage back in the 90s.
Right.
Yeah, so there was going to be a Nicolas Cage, like, starring as Superman movie.
There's a really good documentary on it, too.
And there is a documentary, The Death of Superman Lives, about this movie that would have been, that never got made. But, like, it was in pre-production, like, they had a script, and Nicolas Cage did all the photo. You can see, like, if you look up online, you can see photos of Nicolas Cage in the Superman suit. Like, they were gonna do this movie, but like the biggest joke is that for whatever reason, they wanted Superman in the movie to fight a giant spider. Like, that was the stipulation of what they had to do.
Yeah,
and. It was like, it's something that's so ridiculous, and Kevin Smith talks about this. And
anytime that he's like told that story, I can't. Anytime I hear that producer's name, I can't help but look for the spider.
So that was so this is the reason why this is in the Flash movie, is like for whatever reason, the producer of that Nicolas Cage Superman movie wanted Nicolas Cage Superman to fight a giant spider in the movie. Why?
Hey,
does Superman fight giant spiders? I mean, I'm sure he does at some point, but like, yeah. But like, they throw that in, so they don't just show Nicolas Cage as Superman. They actually legitimately show him fighting the giant spider. And as stupid as it is, I kind of have to give this movie credit for it finally saw the light of day after nearly like 2 decades.
It did.
You finally got Nicolas Cage fighting the spider.
But that is a deep cut.
It is a very deep cut.
That is a deep cut that only this many people are gonna be aware of.
Yeah.
Like I mean, yeah.
But unfortunately, it is a CGI Nicolas Cage, or it looks like it anyway.
Oh no, it's CGI Cage. Yeah. It's painful. Yeah. He's the earlier when I was talking about like the plasticky moonlight look.
Yeah,
it is never more apparent and so bad than when we get that shot of him. It's so bad.
Yeah. So that's in here, man. Again, why is it in a Flash movie? I mean, I don't really know, but
that really should have been like a Grant Gustin one.
But it's here. Yeah, no Grant Gustin, but Nicolas Cage, Superman.
Yeah.
And that's really it, though. Like, of all the DC stuff they could have shown, that's really it. They didn't show any, like, Christian Bale. They didn't show any, like, Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern. No, they didn't show really anything else. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, no, that was it.
No Smallville, or other DC TV shows.
Yeah, that's it. They didn't touch TV content, which is there's a lot there that they could have worked with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was very much another missed opportunity situation that they didn't do anything with. So
yeah, and none of it amounts to anything, anyways, because the timelines don't collide, like we were talking about. He stops it,
right,
and that's it. And then he goes, well, then we have our epilogue sort of stuff. So the first one is when he goes back again and he's gonna put the can of tomatoes back.
Yeah, we didn't touch on that, but like what starts all this is he goes back in time, and Barry's mom dies because he sent her husband out to go get a can of tomatoes.
Yeah,
And so Barry goes back in time and puts the tomato cans in there, presumably making it so he doesn't have to go to the store, and it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So he goes back to and he has this whole emotion, which was the only time in this entire movie that it actually emotionally hit me, was when he was having the conversation with his mother at the end.
Yeah.
And she gives him a hug because she has no knowledge of what's actually going on.
Mm-hmm. He's in the supermarket and he's just acting like a regular guy, like a customer or whatever.
Right.
And he makes a comment about the cereal. You know how he's like, I used to eat that when I was a kid. And he has this moment with his mom, and it works. I mean, it works.
Right.
The scene works. It's emotional. You know, he's talking to her, and obviously can't let her know who he is. And you know, it's the first time that he's been able to talk to her, and you know, and it's sort of that letting go moment. Is he knows what's going to happen. He has the power to stop it, but he knows that if he does stop it, you know, it just causes so much chaos for so many people that, you know.
Right.
He lets it happen. They have this little moment, you know, she's like, do you want a hug? Just asking him, you know. You know, and it works. It works pretty decently, I would say. Again, I wish it was someone other than Ezra Miller in the scene to help me kind of, you know, get more emotional about it, but
and then he goes and puts the can back, and then they skip past this really quick, and I didn't catch it as first. Is my understanding that he shifts the tomato cans to the top shelf so that when his dad grabs the cans, he looks up
and gets shown on the camera.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's his alibi.
So he goes back and fixes the timeline, but not completely. He makes that so that it still dies, but
that still, I mean, I understand it was it gets his dad out of prison, but he still changed the timeline.
Right.
It's a butterfly effect. The most small, insignificant change can cause a ripple effect that changes things drastically. So it's almost as if he learned nothing from the entire process.
No, didn't learn anything.
Yeah.
And then then it cuts to the court scene where they show the evidence. He gets off, and then Batman calls him.
Yeah. Okay. So the movie. Okay. So it, from my understanding, according to what James Gunn and other people have said, is that this movie was supposed to reset the timeline so that we have a fresh slate for DC movies. That doesn't happen.
No, it really doesn't.
No. There's a change, obviously, but it's played as a joke. It's not meant to be taken seriously. At the end of this movie, Batman calls the Flash, and when Batman gets out of the car, it is not Ben Affleck Batman. It is George motherfucking Clooney from Batman and Robin Batman.
Once again, more Batmans in this
more
movie
Batman.
than Flash.
However, that was really funny. That was hilarious. But it's meant to be a joke. It's not meant to be I hope not. I hope it's not meant to be this is our new Batman.
I hope not either. But
no, it was definitely played as a joke. But that's where the movie ends, on that kind of little funny twist. But it's well, that didn't reset anything. That didn't start anything. There's no clean slate. What are you talking about? There's no beginning of the DC universe here. We're just back to where we were. We just swapped out Batman for a joke.
Right. And then it just ends.
It just ends
there.
Yeah.
And then we get a post-credit scene, which is the most... I don't even know why you bothered putting one in there, other than we now live in a world where, we purposely sit through the credits now to see something. But
it's just a drunk Aquaman with Barry.
Yeah, that's about it.
He's just drunk.
That's it.
He falls in a puddle.
Yep. Nothing.
Yeah. And that's the Flash movie.
Yeah. That's what it is.
I was very disappointed, man. I'm not gonna lie. And I'm not somebody that goes into these movies wanting to hate it. And particularly, I want a good Flash movie. I wanted this movie to be as awesome as everyone was saying it was. Right. When I started seeing all those reviews, I was like, well, shit, man. Maybe this is the one.
I think what doesn't help this movie out any is, one, as I mentioned, if you can remember all the way back to the beginning of this, they started the process on this movie in July of 2013, which means they started a little bit before that, but we knew something was possibly coming since 2013. It's 10 years ago. So we have 10 years of waiting for this Flash movie that we kept hearing stories about. So instead of having like 6 months of anticipation for this movie, there's some people that have been waiting for 10 years for this movie to happen. The other thing that doesn't help it is like they've already made, which I need to watch, and I'm questioning whether I actually have or haven't, there was an animated movie that was much better.
Yes.
And the material itself in comic book form is just better. And so it like you've already set the goalposts, and you kicked and you kind of bounced it off the bar. You didn't. Yeah. It didn't. It just.
I just think there was a lot of missed out. I think there's some good ideas in here, but I think the execution was poor. I think there's a lot of missed opportunities, especially with the Flash's powers and abilities and things you could do with it, and just swapping out ideas from like the Flashpoint comic story to what they did with this movie. They could have literally just done that.
And I think this boils down to my problem with DC movies as of late. Once again, we have a situation where I look at this movie and I'm like, there was a better Supergirl movie in there. Like you cut out some crap. There was a better one. There's a better Batman movie in there. There's a better, like, there's just better movies in there. But instead I got a Flash movie that didn't even really feel like much of a Flash movie. It was just kind of like the Flash was the second afterthought of the whole situation. So
yeah, there's a lot of moments where they try to go for comedy and stuff, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There's, like I said, there's no main antagonist unless you just look at like Barry is the antagonist. Also, there's not really like a opposing force. Like you said, you said Barry versus the timeline. That's the antagonist of the movie. And man, I don't know, man. I think I'm just disappointed. And, I've mentioned this many, many, many times, but like you were saying how long it took to get this movie made. Like it took this long within this era of like all these superhero movies being made for there to be a Flash movie. And Flash is like one of the main like DC characters. Like you tell me it literally took 10 years. Like in that time, you did 2 Suicide Squad movies. You did 2 Shazam movies. You did a Black Adam movie. You did a fucking Birds of Prey movie, which I kind of liked, but still, like, you're doing all this stuff, and you have your main, like, the Flash is right here, and you couldn't have done it.
Got a movie.
The Joker got a movie.
Before the Flash did.
Yeah.
Aquaman, yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
Like, when all is said and done, and you look at this, like, DCEU, universe or whatever, if Man of Steel was the first one and this was the last one, you don't really have a lot in there that's like stands out.
No, these are, I think looking back, these are just all going to be the movies that some were okay, but the amount of just missed opportunity is painful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just painful. So,
yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm just going to throw out just a few last, because it feels like we're wrapping up here. Just last
final thoughts. Okay.
Right. Before we'll chop it and then moved off to the extended.
Yeah. Final thoughts. And then on the podcast channel, we'll have extended.
So I just in general, and maybe we'll go into this later on afterwards. One, and I mentioned earlier, supposedly there's a 4-hour cut of this movie. No thanks.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
As of when I looked this up at about 2:00 this afternoon, it's estimated to do $61 million this weekend. That's less than Black Adam.
Oh, that's bad.
That's not good.
That's bad.
Black Adam did $68 million its opening weekend. This one's like trending towards 61, which is scary because I saw numbers in like north of like in like the low 100s, and it's only going to be in the 60s.
Even I thought it would do better than that, just because like the positive word of mouth, and then it actually does have some competition. Like, despite what we might think of the Transformers movies, like those are popular movies, and that's out this weekend too. I think it came out.
It's in its second weekend.
Yeah, but it's still like if you're going to go see a big action movie for the
we'll get into this later, but that movie got slammed in its second weekend.
Oh, did it?
Oh, it's bad.
Okay,
we'll get that in the extended part, but yeah, it's not going well. So yeah, and it did opening day. It did 24.5, which is under Black Adam. Wow. So the last DC property is already doing well enough. I bet The Rock is like someplace all excited.
Oh, he's stoked, yeah.
It's stoked that it's not doing what it is. But, I mean, I think there's some other thoughts. Not thoughts directly, but just some things I kind of want your take on. But
yeah,
I think we'll wrap one up. And then we'll just keep
we'll
going.
call it there for the Flash review. So let us know what you guys think down below in the comments if you saw it, if you didn't see it. I know that a lot of people just are outright not gonna go watch it, and that's fine. I get it, it's fine. But I had some hope, and after seeing it, I just I still think I give it a 5, but the more I think about it, the more problems I have with it. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's the I like I was like yesterday, we saw it at like 2:45, and at like 2 a.m. when we were still talking, there was still stuff coming up that I was like, oh, wait. So.
But anyways, let us know what you guys think about it down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and then I'll get the link to the podcast channel in the description of the video.
Where you can watch this conversation continue.
And then, we'll go in a little further detail. So, all right. Thanks.
Vogie, this is where you started round 2.
Okay. Are we testing or going?
This is we're good. We're gonna just keep going.
Okay, sweet.
All right. So I pulled a few things. We had a few things in mind that I pulled. Yeah. Some of them are still Flash related because now that you're into the extended version, which at this point
everybody needs more Flash. Flash criticism.
I don't know whether they more Flash criticism. It was like 2 hours, and I don't think we were expecting that, but. No, I saw this kind of posted online. It was kind of an interesting thought. Do you think that movie would have been helped out at all by the fact that it was PG-13? Do you think it would have helped to go R?
Not in particularly. I mean, I can't think of anything in the movie that would have needed to be R.
Yeah, especially because supposedly there was stuff cut out of that movie that made it an R, so they had to cut down to PG-13. If they did
the original Flashpoint story and had like the Thomas Wayne Batman, then maybe because that Batman is like a crazy bastard.
That would have been so much better. Yeah.
And it would have had like the war between the Atlanteans and the Amazons, so there would have been more like chaos and. So if they did like actual Flashpoint, then maybe it could have been rated R. But with the movie they gave us, I can't really think of anything in particular that would have like. I mean, it'd be cool to see like Michael Keaton say "fuck" a bunch of times, but like, I don't think it was really needed. It would have been cool to see like Sasha Calle maybe like out of the suit, if you know what I mean. But
for the plot,
but like I don't think it was needed. I mean, I might need that in a different way, but like, anyways.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
Some other things like the director, Andy Muschietti. Yeah. I mean, previously he did It Chapter 2. He did a movie called
movies.
Mama.
I like the It movies.
I do.
I like the first one a lot more. The second one kind of dropped the ball. But,
I like those movies. Yeah. I think it's interesting after this movie and everything that's going on, he's going to be doing Brave and the Bold.
Oh, the Batman. The new Batman.
He's going to be doing the Brave and the Bold. Like, that looks like his next project, I guess, is what he's going to be doing. I don't know how I feel about that.
I mean... Well, that's weird because, like, the It movies, there are times in the It movies where I think they use too much CGI and it should have been practical. But the way the It movies look, like cinematography-wise, looks a lot better than The Flash.
It was immensely better.
I'd
almost wonder who the director of cinematography was, whether it was somebody he's never worked with or...
So if he did a Batman movie and he made it look darker and he made it look like the It movies, then maybe, yeah. But I really want him to dial back the CGI. Like, I can't have another movie like this. And Batman is a grounded character. Like, I mean, I want it. Obviously, you're gonna use CGI, but like with a Batman movie, I feel like you can restrict CGI to a certain extent, and that needs to be done. I wouldn't want them to do like an immense amount of CG, like animated Batman, because even the Ben Affleck stuff, you know, there was a lot of CG, like when he's on the highway, you know, and stuff.
Right.
Like, I don't know. But he did. I mean, obviously, he dealt with enough Batman stuff in this movie that, like,
I mean, and the only other thing going for him is like if he can handle all the issues that come with this movie and navigating it, and like didn't lose all of his hair, then
right.
You know, the Batman and that Batman movie will probably be a cakewalk comparatively.
It is. I still don't know how I feel about it, though, to be honest, because we have so much Batman, you know? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Batman is my favorite superhero. Like, I'm a basic bitch when it comes to the superheroes. Like, Batman is my favorite. Always has been since I was a kid, partially due to the Michael Keaton movies when I was a kid. But, like, there's so much more you can do that, like, and I don't know. I'm sure if I see a trailer or something, it always has the potential to change my mind. Maybe it'll be like the greatest Batman movie ever. But I just feel like we have had so many Batman movies that I wish we were doing something else. Or I wish if Batman was involved, maybe we could do it, you know, combined with other superheroes and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. I'm just nervous about it.
It is kind of one of those things, though, right now, where it's just like, oh, God, we always have the conversation, do we need more Batman? And then the new Batman movie gets announced. And they're like, oh, God, why more Batman? Can't we do anything else? And then the trailer releases, and I'm like, all right, I guess I'll go see the Batman movie. It's just like, it's just bad.
Yeah.
I also wrote down, you know, and I'm following a list, so get off me if you don't like the fact that I'm following a list. I made a list. With the way The Flash is kind of being received right now, I was kind of looking at what was upcoming for DC, and boy, I don't know. Blue Beetle is next in August.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sold by the trailers on that one.
I don't know what to make of that. That movie looks like just one of those, like, God. I mean, I know it was supposed to be like direct to streaming, wasn't it?
It was supposed to be a streaming movie, but they boosted it up, which I guess means they have confidence in it.
But my problem is they may have confidence in it that they can do that.
Yeah.
But it looks like a direct to streaming movie. Like,
yeah,
I don't
know if they're trying to like recapture like the Iron Man thing with the MCU, because remember before Iron Man came out, Iron Man wasn't like as popular as he is now. Like Iron Man wasn't like a top tier Marvel character, you know?
Right. Iron Man and Robert Downey Jr. were not
right. And it's always good to remember
names.
that. Like Iron Man is like revered now. Like nowadays we wish we could get another Iron Man movie out of Marvel, you know? It's like,
you know what's always good to remember? Iron Man was not the first MCU movie.
It wasn't the first one?
No. The Hulk came out 3 months before.
Did it come out before?
Yeah, because there's a post-credit scene on the Hulk movie with Robert Downey Jr.
Yes, yeah.
And it came out before Iron Man.
I thought it came out after. I know they came out in the same year.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I'm pretty sure the Incredible Hulk comes out months before, but no one remembers the Incredible Hulk. I wouldn't remember it, but you know that's
I do. Okay. I liked it. But so like Iron Man was this thing that started like this whole, like, it was a mid-tier character that became beloved by everybody because of the movie. So I don't know if they're trying to kind of recapture that and make Blue Beetle, you know, like a very minor DC character into like a potential like Iron Man thing.
Right.
And even his suit, like, I mean, I don't really know a lot about Blue Beetle. It's like alien technology or whatever, but like it's a technology like suit. Like it's it's sort of iron. This probably might offend the 2 Blue Beetle fans that exist in the world out there, but it's kind of Iron Man-esque, right? Like,
look, all I gotta say is if there's 2 Blue Beetle fans that have made it this far, thanks for watching.
Like, it's the suit that's powerful, right? It's like it's alien technology. You know, Iron Man is obviously like the Stark technology, but like it just seems a little bit too similar to not suggest the idea that they might be trying to like start their DC with that kind of character.
Right. Didn't they say that this was supposed to be the first movie in the new,
I guess.
quote-unquote?
I don't know. I don't understand. 'Cause I watched that interview with James Gunn, the guy that played Lex Luthor on the Smallville TV show as a podcast.
Okay.
And he had James Gunn on. I've never watched an episode of his podcast, but he had James Gunn on, so I watched the whole thing. It was a good interview. I like James Gunn, but James Gunn didn't even make it clear. He's like, yeah, Blue Beetle is the first DC character in the new universe, but Superman is the first DC movie in the new universe. And he didn't elaborate. Like, he didn't explain what that meant.
Okay.
So does it start with Blue Beetle or does it start with Superman? And don't forget, there's still another Aquaman movie that needs to come out.
Well, that's what I have down next. In December, we get the other Aquaman movie.
Yeah, what is that? Which that's going to be like fucked up too because they had to reshoot all that stuff because of Amber Heard.
Yeah, talk about a mess, like a mess for DC. You had Ezra Miller problem for The Flash, and now you have the Amber Heard problem for Aquaman.
Yeah.
Like, and who knows? Dude, the way this world has been working lately, who knows? Blue Beetle comes out and then all of a sudden something gets announced.
Yeah, well, they always say, money, money fixes everything. Like, whatever movie makes the most money is the one they're going to want to make more of. So it doesn't matter what plan they have. Like, if Blue Beetle comes out and it makes, fucking, near, $700 million or something, then it's going to be like, well, that's our DC universe. I guarantee you they'll shift things around and that'll be like their thing. But if it bombs, they'll probably never touch Blue Beetle again. So it'll all come down to that.
Yeah, I'm good. Look, I hope it does okay, but just based on those trailers, I'm not confident at all.
I think I'm at the point where I don't want to rush out and see every superhero movie anymore. Like, I don't know if I'll go see Blue Beetle. Unless like people are saying it's crazy good, but they said that about Flash also. And then like the Ms. Marvel's movie, I'm not really gunning to see that.
I'm pretty sure I've seen close to almost every single Marvel movie in a movie theater, and because I don't think you saw it, but I went and saw Captain Marvel, and I don't know about this one. This is like the first time where like I'm sometimes hedged on movies, but now I'm just kind of like I don't know about this one.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where like I kind of wish I didn't see Quantumania. You know what I mean? Like after it's like some of these movies, like I want to stop.
If I definitely if I could, run and pull a Barry, I would go back in time to myself, like before he was about to walk into the Thor movie, and be like, you should probably not do this.
That Thor movie was disappointing too, man. Because Christian Bale was so good in it, but everything else sucked. But that's the thing is like I want these movies to be good, and I've always enjoyed these movies, but just in recent times, basically since Endgame, I haven't been drawn to any of them, Marvel or DC.
Yeah, I mean, I get drawn towards characters. Like I like Doctor Strange.
I did like the Doctor Strange.
So I'll go see Doctor Strange stuff. But you're right. It's like I've said like Endgame. It was the end, and then the problem is they kept going.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of not the same. They aren't building towards anything. Of course, I don't know. I guess when we're looking at it overall, neither Marvel or DC are really doing much of anything right now. They're struggling. Mm-hmm. Now I know like people will throw back at you. Well, Marvel's doing X amount of millions every time they throw a movie out there. Mm-hmm. Okay, sure, but like it's really not. Of course, these movies have also been out long enough now that like we're almost into like another generation starting to watch Marvel movies. That's how long those movies have been going for.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you think about it.
I mean,
like 2008 was the beginning, and like, if someone was born, how long ago was that?
15 years ago.
So yeah, you'd literally have like a whole new generation.
There was somebody born in 2008 that's now 15, 16. that, you know, maybe going back and watching like the original Iron Man movie.
Yeah.
Like that's a crazy thought to think about.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know, a whole bunch of problems all over the place. You know, but we were talking earlier about extended cuts. How about the fact that Kevin Smith came out on a podcast and said that he had a copy of a Schumacher cut of Batman Forever?
You know, I wouldn't. I mean, I would watch it. You know, I have a soft spot for Batman Forever. I do, because I remember being a kid and being excited for it. And I remember when it came out. And
oh yeah, no, you know, I freaking I love those movies when I first saw them.
Yeah.
I look back at them now and I'm like, you know, some things didn't hold up as well.
Yeah,
you know, it had its moments, but like, I can't lie. I'd be sitting here lying to you if I didn't tell you that like, you know, 6-7-year-old Vogie didn't love those,
absolutely,
like, didn't thoroughly enjoy those movies.
I think that Batman theme song is underrated. Like the Tim Burton one is obviously the best, like the Tim Burton Batman theme.
Yeah,
but the Schumacher one is actually pretty good too. It's like it's it really good? I don't know. I think about it sometimes when I'm thinking about Batman. I'm like, that's a good theme song. They gotta bring it back. They gotta bring it back, man. Anyways,
they do need to bring it back.
And then you had, you know, Nicole Kidman in there. You know, she just was like a psychiatrist or something, but she was like hanging out in her nightgown, like up in the, you know. I'm just saying, like Nicole Kidman back in like the '90s, bro.
90s Nicole Kidman. I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be my top choice, but if I like was on a rooftop and she was in a nightgown, it's on.
It's on like Donkey Kong.
Saying no bat suit's going to restrict me. Anyways.
So, okay.
I'm just saying.
What the hell?
I don't know.
I mean, that's my last DC-related thing. You brought up, like, at this point with us now watching The Flash, we're talking any DC property, like, top 5. Where are you at?
Yeah, so what DC movies are, like, the best? Like, the best DC movies. So if you were doing like a top 5, right? But my thing is like, so I would obviously throw the Christopher Nolan Batman movies in there, but would that take up 3 spots or would it take up 1 spot? Like, does that count as 1?
I think for the sake of trying,
because that would probably be my top 3.
Yeah.
And I know now, actually, those movies have come out long enough ago that like now they have a lot of people that don't like them. Like a lot of people criticize them for like the fight scenes and the Batman voice and stuff like that. There's a lot of people that don't like those movies, actually.
Yeah, those movies aren't perfect. Like they have their issues.
Yeah.
But when I mean, again, that was like one of the like first time seeing Batman on the big screen again since we had like the earlier movies. And I don't know, the whole experience I think because I was with you, like we went and saw when they used to do like multiple screenings. Like we sat in a movie theater and watched Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and then Dark Knight Rises.
Yes.
So like, I don't know, I think you count those 3 as 1. I mean, with the understanding that like, yeah, it'd probably be 1, 2, 3.
Right.
Now the question is which order do you put those in 1, 2, 3?
That
if
honestly
you had to.
Depends on my mood. Because sometimes I like Batman Begins the best.
Which I always wondered about. We talk about that and I was just like, I don't know about that one. But
I do, because I like the whole, I like the training sequences and stuff. I like seeing him, you know, learning how to be Batman. I like seeing when he's training with Ra's al Ghul up at that temple, and, you know, he's got to figure out like which ninja is the one trying to attack him, and when they're out in the ice together, like having that mentor moment. Like I like stuff like that. I like just seeing him begin as Batman. Batman Begins. I like seeing the beginning of Batman. I like seeing it come together. I like seeing how he tries the Kevlar suit, you know, before he gets like the whole mask and everything. I like the build up to it. That first scene where he's in the bat suit, where they're in the docks with all like the shipping cargo stuff, and like you don't really see him, like he's pulling bad guys like off to the side, and people are like, what the fuck is going on? And that one guy's like, you know, where are you? And he turns around and Batman's upside down. He's like, here. And like, I don't know, it's cool, man. I don't know. So like sometimes that's my favorite.
I mean, all right,
because I like that stuff.
I mean, I guess
particularly the first half, like the first like him becoming Batman. I
right.
love that stuff.
I mean, all right. I guess I'll give it. I'll give it to you. But all right. So
yeah,
probably for both of us, that's going to be up top. Is the Nolan properties.
DC movies. I'm gonna say like the Nolan Batman movies.
All right.
And then I guess after that I would have to go with the Tim Burton Batman movies, Batman and Batman Returns.
Ooh, yeah, those are really good.
Because that for me is like obviously it's childhood nostalgia, but like I love the aesthetic to it. Like I love the gothic, like noir style to it. Like that's something about Batman that I don't think anybody's ever tried to do since those movies. And I know that's like a Tim Burton thing, like all of his movies are gothic, but like there's something really cool about like the way the cities are designed and just kind of like it just feels like a place where Batman should exist. Like
right. I think it's also like not often do we see movies stick with the theme throughout an entire movie and stay there.
Yeah.
Like we just don't see that anymore. So the fact that they went with like a very like 30s gothic, stuck with it.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah.
And they made everything that Batman did and utilized work within that universe. You're right. That's oh crap.
So
see, what this is really just going to turn into is both of us talking about our top five, and it's going to be the same exact top five. Just Batman movies.
So next, off the top of my head, I think I would go Man of Steel for me. I like that movie more than most people. I know that a lot of people have problems with it. I know a lot of people don't like Zack Snyder, but I think Man of Steel, in particularly, that movie is a great movie. I think it's a great film about like him discovering himself of what he should do. I think that it's a good origin story. I like the way it looks. A lot of people think it's too dark, but I think it looks fine. Azad is an antagonist I like, and you know, like the action sequences and stuff are crazy good. Like I remember when I first saw it in the theater, and like that whole fight scene in Smallville, I was like, I feel like I'm watching like a live action DBZ movie. You know, like, this is crazy.
Yeah,
like, and it was probably like the first time like we saw like Superman be able to do shit like that, because before that it's just like the older Christopher Reeve movies, which I like, but you know, they're a product of their time. And then like they did that Superman Returns movie. I don't know if you remember that, but like
vaguely,
that movie was like boring as hell, man. I don't know. He didn't do anything that whole movie. Yeah,
remember that? Yeah.
So okay, so I'm gonna say Man of Steel for that one. After that is where it gets tricky, because I'm like,
see, here's my problem. I don't want to copy your list, but then I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, like I feel like Man of Steel's on there because I wasn't like as big on it as you were, and then I kind of went back and watched it, and I was like, you know what, this isn't that bad actually. It's actually pretty good. But God, I don't want to copy you, but at the same time, I'm like, well,
no, it's all good. It's all good.
I can't really put it. I think for me, I would throw in, believe it or not, Birds of Prey somewhere in there.
Oh wow, okay.
Just because one, it was, I mean, not because of this specifically, but I think it was one of the first time like we got Harley Quinn as a primary character, and it was done well. And it was filmed in a way that like gave me very like you know, chicks are dope, but not so much where like, I think unfortunately when that theme is used in a movie and they're trying to do that, sometimes it's kind of very like hit you over the head with it.
Yeah, it's like really corny.
Right, really corny. Like over. I mean, well, like the example that comes to mind is at the fight sequence at the end of Endgame. There's really a portion where like Spider-Man's just like, and then they're like, don't worry, he has us, and it posts to all the women.
They just all happen to be in the same location at the same time. Yeah.
So like they didn't do that in Birds of Prey. Yeah. And so it was like a nice change. They just did things. It just happened. I don't know. I kind of like that. I like that movie. Now I haven't watched it in a while, but like I feel like some credit has to be given to that movie because it was like a female-led movie, that action movie that was well done, and like I didn't cringe halfway through it. So,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that's fair.
I'm going to throw it on my list. I don't know where I would put it because now I'm like questioning all of like, because then what's really bad is when we're trying to figure out like a good DC movie, like 9 times out of 10 when people start talking about the new movies that come up, you'll hear them be like, this is the best movie since The Dark Knight. Then you realize how long ago The Dark Knight was.
Yeah.
But now the problem is I don't have any, like I'm trying to think of things that are better than. It's really bad when trying to come up with 5.
Right. Yeah.
If we group up like we are,
if we
like
group
we're
them up,
grouping up the universe movie.
Well, I would probably also put the first Wonder Woman movie in. I thought that
is a good choice.
Was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Action sequences were dope. I thought that Gal Gadot did a really good job. It's just a fun movie. I think it's good. It's a good origin
solid
story.
Movie too.
Yeah. So that would be around 4 for me. And then number 5, I don't know. Part of me wants to put Zack Snyder's Justice League, but there's that 4-hour runtime that just like bothers the hell out of me. It's just like I feel like
I've never gone back and watched it again either. I just can't. Like it's just too long.
It is too long. Yeah.
I'm sitting here struggling because I really want to put like Aquaman on that list.
Okay.
But my problem with doing that is I realized that I don't think I've actually watched all of Aquaman all the way through in forever. Mm-hmm. If I go back and watch Aquaman, I literally, if you look at my like searches on Google, I go back to the Aquaman movie and watch from the scene where he's down below talking to the creature protecting the trident, and like it realizes that it can talk to Aquaman, and then he has his like Iron Man getting into his suit moment, where he like walks up top and he's in the OG, going in from that scene, then into like the fight sequence that goes down below. And like the Kraken comes up out of the ground, and he's like fucking yells, and he's like and then Defoe like gives you the king has risen line. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about that. Scene's dope. I love watching that scene, but I realize I've watched that scene probably like 15, 20 times, but I've never gone back and watched the rest of the movie.
Right.
So like I want to put it in my top 5. But at the same time, can I really say that if I've only ever watched like a good 15 minutes of the movie over and over again, and not the whole movie? That is the question. Yeah, that's where I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh,
that's probably about it for me. I mean,
yeah.
I guess I would put it. I guess I'd put Justice League, the Zack Snyder Justice League, not the other one, as my number 5. But it's still like something that I can't really go back and watch from start to finish. I mean, I understand why it's as long as it is because it's a very special, unique case of a movie. You know, if it was like the version that would have been in theaters, it wouldn't have been 4 hours. Obviously, they just basically allowed him to like finish everything that he wanted. Right. That would be like the first cut you would get, and then you'd have to chop out like an hour and a half to get it into theaters, right? So I get it. But I do think there's some really good stuff in there, and I like a lot of the stuff that he did with it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go the two Batmans first. God, Man of Steel, because I'm going to copy you. And then I'll probably do Wonder Woman 4 and then Birds of Prey 5.
Okay.
Then like Aquaman, like 5.5.
Honorable mention.
Or at least that last 15, like those 15 minutes, that's 6.
Fair, yeah.
But no, and last, I just have we don't need to touch on. I mean, we did joke about doing an Oppenheimer Barbie bash.
Yeah, well, Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer and Barbie come out on the same day.
I mean, and who wouldn't want to go watch about the building of an atomic bomb that, rightfully changes the world, and then going and watching Barbie, which to this day and to this point, and it comes out here in a few weeks, I do not know if it's a kid's movie, an adult movie. I don't know whether it's an action. I don't know whether it's comedy. I don't know what the heck it is, other than it's Barbie, and I get uncomfortable watching that trailer.
The trailer is weird. I don't know who this movie is for. Because you would think it would be marketed towards little girls. But, like, all the talk around the movie is, like, adults.
And they're beaching people off.
Yeah, and the trailer literally has, like, adult sex jokes. So who is this movie for? I don't know.
I don't know
who this movie is for. I mean, dude, it's crazy. I don't understand.
I don't.
Half the movie looks like the fucking Cat in the Hat movie, and then it looks like she goes to the real world at some point.
Oh my god, that is what it is. Because that's what the world needed. More live action Cat in the Hat style movies.
We should have got a sequel to that, honestly.
Damn. Where's our Dr. Seuss like live action movie retrospective?
That movie was so bad that the people that owned Dr. Seuss said
they told
no more live action.
No more live action. Yeah, that killed it. God. Just some other things.
Can make cupcakes out of anything. Sorry.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
God, we need to have like a Mike Myers night where we just watch. But look, when we get together and watch Mike Myers stuff, we always watch the Austin Powers trilogy.
Yeah, well, that's.
I feel like we got to go into like more like less like known stuff.
Okay.
Kind of do like Cat in the Hat, which is kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of funny.
It is something.
But just a few other things. I don't know. This podcast is going to become whatever the heck we want to talk about. Yeah. I don't want to put us into a box. This one's just very film oriented because we started out with a movie.
Yeah. So
I looked up a lot of movie stuff for today to keep it in that theme. But if anybody's got any suggestions of stuff they want us to talk about, you can always tweet at him, tweet at me, because maybe I'll put out what my handle is someplace. I also hover in his Discord, so you can put stuff in there. I may start checking that to see if anybody's got any suggestions or wants us to talk about something. Because the other stuff I written down, I mean, I thought it was interesting. The new Pixar movie came out this time around. There's a lot of movies coming out that now that I think about it, within short. That maybe not necessarily something I'm interested in, but there are a few. But Elemental had the poorest first day opening for a Pixar movie. I mean, 11.8 million, but Pixar's not been doing well lately.
I mean, that movie looked generic as hell, to be honest. So I'm not really super surprised. But yeah, Pixar used to be a legitimate, big name. When they put out a movie, it was gonna make bank,
Oh yeah, and I don't know. The Pixar movies have now become dime a dozen. They used to be award season. It was it was almost guaranteed that Pixar movie, whatever it was going to pick up a win in the award season. Now it's I mean, Illumination's caught up and is doing a lot of good stuff. And even within Pixar's own Pixar being owned by Disney, even Disney's animation studio has been producing kind of some better stuff than Pixar lately. So it's kind of sad to see, if I'm honest, because
turning of the tides, I guess. Everything has its era, and then
But do I really want to live in a world where the Pixar era is over?
Then they fall back and just every time they make another Toy Story or Cars movie, and it's
yeah, well,
when they get desperate,
I didn't write it down, but I saw that there was people talking about who's returning voice actors for Toy Story 5 or something like that. I don't know.
I don't even feel like Toy Story is relevant anymore, man. Kids today, do they even play with stuff like that?
Did that feel dirty to say?
No, but really,
you almost had I don't think Toy Story is relevant.
No, for real though, because think about what when it first came out, Andy's playing with cowboys and spacemen and stuff like that. Kids today are swiping through TikTok and on iPads and shit. Kids don't. I don't feel like kids don't I don't know. Maybe I'm just. I mean, I don't spend any time around children, so I guess I don't know.
Let's make this clear. Yeah. I don't spend.
But I just don't think it. I don't know. I don't think it speaks to the current generation.
Yeah,
maybe I'm wrong, but
No, I don't, man. I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I don't know. I think what happened is competition showed up, and I don't think Pixar upped the game any. I don't. I really don't. I don't think story-wise they did either. So I don't think they're as relevant as they used to be because they're not producing anything worthwhile to say, which is sad to say. But,
Yeah.
the only other thing I had written down was a lot of movies, including stuff that's supposed to be coming in the DC universe and Marvel and all that, all being delayed this past week, like horrendously.
Right. That's because of the writer's strike, mostly, right? Like,
It seemed to be
back.
There's like, of course, some of the Marvel pushback and delay may be for other reasons, because one of your main protagonist and villain that was supposed to be your next Thanos, kind of maybe some issues there.
They're all having problems with that, man. DC and Marvel, hiring these actors, man.
Seems to be a common theme. So I don't know.
It just reminds us that, actors are just people, man. Like, they're not the characters they play.
Yeah.
Like, anybody can be an asshole.
I think the thing why it hit me, not hit me, but I was just kind of like, that is weird to think about. Like, newsflash, we're getting older.
Yeah.
And when I start to think about like some of the Marvel movies and things like that, like I'm starting to go, well, like you were talking about earlier about like not wanting, probably not seeking out every like superhero movie.
Yeah.
I'm having this tough like thought now where like, have I reached the point where I'm aging out of superhero movies? And like, has my time for like what my superhero movies are those gone? And are we on to a new generation of movies? And that thought came to me in part because they delayed some of these movies back. Like, I think like the second, like the Kang Dynasty stuff. Yeah. For the next two Avengers movies will go from like 2000, like 27 or 28. 26 and 27 or something like that. And I'm like, okay, that's in 3 or 4 years. But then I'm just like, man, I'll be like closer to 40 than I will be 30 when those movies come out.
Sure, yeah.
That's a weird thought. I was just like, the thought came to me. I'm like, I'm going to be like 38 or like some of these movies at the rate they're going, I'm going to be in my 40s when they come out.
Right.
Like, have I reached a point where like I cared like 8 years ago, but now...
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, I think that a good movie is a good movie, and I don't think like, to me, like, I enjoy like some like kids movies and the same way I would enjoy like a hard R-rated horror movie or something. Like, a good movie is a good movie.
Right.
Regardless of the genre or its demographic or whatever, in my opinion. But I do kind of agree with you that like I think that if you are in an era of these movies coming out, there is a time where it just sort of phases out. So like, I do think like the golden era of Marvel, like the MCU, is over. I think it's been over for a while.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, that original series of movies. And also, it's just harder and harder to do something unique with these movies after there's been so many. And there's only so many stories you can tell until they start to feel repetitive. And if everyone just starts making the same movie over and over again, just with a different coat of paint, you feel it. You're like, I've been here before. It's a different character. It's a different villain, but it's the same movie, really. I feel like that's what a lot of it is, too. It's like you can tell all 3 acts of the movie before you even go in. Like, you know exactly what's going to happen. And that ruins it sometimes, because you're sitting there and you're sitting through it and you want something to surprise you. You want to be emotionally invested, but you've just seen it so many times that you're not, Does that make sense?
Yeah. God, when was the last time you went to a movie and were surprised by what happened?
Like any movie?
Yeah.
Any movie?
Like recent. I would say recently. Like, when was the last time you went to a movie theater, saw something happen, and was just kind of surprised about the turn? Like, didn't read it at least a little bit before it happened? Because I'm struggling, because, like...
Yeah, like the most recent. I can't think of like what the most recent one would be. Look at my movie collection over there. I'm like, is there a recent movie I bought that like surprised me? Not in particular, I guess.
See, I have only one example that's standing out in my brain. It's not recent, and it's not even a movie. It's like the Hunter x Hunter. It's Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah. Okay, fair.
Like,
yeah.
I remember because I was late to that show, and I watched it like after like you had already, and we got to the like the end of like the Chimera Ant arc and all of that.
Yeah.
Some of that shit in there.
Yeah, towards the ending of that.
I remember you texting me and be like, dude, wasn't that? And I'm like, no, I'm just surprised they freaking pulled it off. It's the last time I was surprised and excited. Like, dope. You know what? Now that I think about it, the only other time before that, and like, if you don't know this, like, friggin' YouTube it. Like, and I know you don't watch it, and of course I haven't watched much of it, the new stuff, but Mandalorian.
Okay.
When they bring Luke
okay,
back
I know
in,
what you're talking
I
about,
didn't see that coming.
Mm-hmm.
In that, like, I was excited about, but beyond that, like, I just want to be able to go into a movie and be surprised again.
Yeah.
It would be so nice. Or not be able to be like, well, we know how this is going to end.
Mm-hmm. And just be able to predict everything, And even if you don't watch the trailer, sometimes just by like the premise of the movie, you can kind of piece it together before you even go see it. Yeah, man. I there probably is one somewhere, but I can't think of like an immediate like movie that threw me off or did something like at least that was released, new within the last like 3 or 4 years. Like I can't.
That's kind of sad.
I can't really think of one.
That's kind of sad.
Yeah.
But dude, I have to tell you, because you were talking about like kids movies and this stuff earlier. Did I tell you that I watched like 2-3 episodes of the original Power Rangers, like season 1?
Oh fuck yeah, dude!
Dude, I don't know what prompted me.
Awesome.
Like a week or two ago, I was just like, I'm gonna watch some Power Rangers. I started watching season 1 of Power Rangers because I think there was like some clip online that showed up. No, you know what it is? Because you started following and retweeting clips from that one. There's one Twitter account that posts a lot of Power Ranger clips.
Okay.
And you had posted one, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I started looking at it. So therefore, the algorithm started feeding them to me.
Yeah.
So I was just like, and I watched one clip, and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. So I'm like, I gotta watch some of the OG stuff. And I think that's also because we're going to a Comic-Con here in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And the Blue Ranger and Black Ranger are both going to be there.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what prompted some of it too. I gotta give credit. It's a kid show. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Like it's only like 20 to 21 minutes an episode.
The pacing is so fast. It's just
Dude, I appreciate. Do you know they set up the entire plot for the Power Rangers in a 20-minute episode?
Yep.
And I understood it, and it was good.
Yeah.
I laughed so hard. I'm like, there's movies out there that waddle for 2.5 hours and can't get their plot down and tell you what's going on. Power Rangers, 20 minutes.
Yeah, bring me 5 teenagers with attitude. And then
5 teenagers show up, and it's like, oh, by the way,
Power Rangers now.
Here you go. Yeah. This will give you special abilities. Oh, yeah. You hear that up there?
Yeah.
That's bad. We got to stop that. Like, I had to bring it up because I was just like, I was just, of all things to be impressed by, I was just like, I'm impressed with season 1, episode 1.
Engaged right away. You're just like invested. You're like, all right, Rita's free. She's on the moon and she wants to destroy Earth. Gotcha. All right.
That and the other part was just like, oh yeah, we have like all these like robots and mechs that we can make into a giant one. Yep.
They just do it.
Just like, episode 1. Like, you don't need to know why or how this works. Nope, they just are.
Yep.
And then, like, the second episode, they're like, oh, yeah, we have special weapons now. Why? Who cares? We have them now.
Yeah.
Does it matter? Oh, by the way, we can all, like, combine them together and make them into this, like really, like...
And they're all just called Power, like the Power Sword, the Power Lance, the Power Axe.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I may have to watch more Power Rangers. We're gonna have to get into it.
Do it, man. Do it.
We're gonna have to get into it. But
oh man.
All right. I think that's enough for one day. Considering that if you watched on the Real Life Ryan channel and then came over here and watched the rest of what's going on, you got to be hitting like 2.5. We have now talked as long or as longer
as the Flash movie. Well, that's the point, because we want to give you the same experience
and be more entertained than you probably will with the Flash.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, there may have been times where there's some good parts, some bad parts of this podcast, but hey, you were here. We appreciate you giving it a watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you want to give it, and I'll have it, I'm going to give the information to him. I'll have it posted someplace, but it's the Ryan and Vogie channel. We're hoping to post things like this quite a bit on there. I kept it very vague because we want to be...
Yeah.
I figured it's just going to be like a dumping ground for stuff that we just... wouldn't it be funny if we did this? And then we just dump it on here.
So any topic is on the board. Like, it doesn't have to be covering movies and stuff. It can be like...
It doesn't have to be movies.
Any topic.
Any topic. He's the anime guy. I am not. But I'll give it a go if somebody wants us to talk about something.
Sure.
Like, he'll be the educated one, and he'll just have to educate me on what's going on. That could be bad or good. Who knows?
I mean, I don't know, man. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. So we can try something like that, or we could just talk about, potato chips or something, like whatever comes to mind.
We'll just throw it back. We'll do some Limp Bizkit, some energy.
We'll talk about Limp Bizkit for an episode.
All the energy drinks, which was probably not a good idea because we drank a lot of energy drinks that day.
Yeah, that's too much.
And we still haven't watched the new Fast X and done our retrospective.
Oh, God.
That went from 2-part to 3-part, but, no.
Yeah, now there's going to be multiple Fast XXX. They could end it, if there's 3 of them, it could be a Fast X, Fast XX, and then Fast X, Triple X, and have Vin Diesel from Triple X meet Dom from the Fast and Furious in the final movie.
Well,
it could be the shared universe of Vin Diesel movies. Bring in Riddick. Fucking... Who else has he played? I don't know. He's been in other movies.
Groot just shows up.
Yeah.
We don't need that. No, thanks. I don't need a Diesel verse. No.
Come on, man. The Diesel verse.
No. Well, if you want to hear more about the Diesel verse, give it a like, give it a comment, give it a follow. If you got any other suggestions of things you want us to talk about, you can always throw it down below. I'll be looking for stuff. So let us know.
Yeah, man. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and go see The Flash if you want.
Proceed with caution.
Yeah.